I'm interested in the anthro art and looking at fursuits, but I lose interest in the fandom every time because I dislike things such as YIF. Oh, this is where it all falls apart, folks. Why, hello, everybody. We are back. Thought Patrol Podcast, episode 89. This
back
week,
again.
Guess
I'm not
who's
gonna do the
back?
rest of it. Don't even get your hopes up, bitches.
Tell a friend. Also, this week, we'll be talking a little bit about the free-to-play game model, business model, what it does right, what it does wrong, what we think AAA developers can take, although AAA developers release free-to-play games all the time, but what paid games can take from the free-to-play business model, and the pros and cons. So, look forward to that. We'll get to that as we get through our the other stuff in our podcast. Shawn, how the fuck you doing, bro? How's your week?
Oh,
going?
you know me. I'm always
just like
fantastic.
Yeah, just a beam of radiant, optimistic light that you are. Nothing
I
can
have
ever
been
go wrong.
Optimistic light before.
Uh-huh.
Not that that's an unusual thing for me.
I am combating sickness again, so I will try to not sound like an absolute utter piece of dog shit this episode, but I cannot promise anything. So bear with me if you hear the lingering sounds of a man dying, because that is my current situation. But since you don't want to divulge any of your week to me, bro, I guess I'll start first, and I'll let you compile yourself, and we'll come back to you. How about that? My week's been decent. It's been okay. A new game came. Actually, well, there was Borderlands 3 was announced recently. Well, we all knew it was coming, but they showed like a gameplay trailer off. Looks fucking awesome. But it was during PAX East, and during that event as well, which was an absolute, Shawn, this event was a fucking cringe fest, bro. I'm not gonna lie. It was incredibly, oh man, how do
I think the SJWs, you hate me for this, but I'm pretty sure that and I don't know how this is linked, but I think the software festivals convention thing started dying off right about the time that it became politically incorrect to have booth babes. This is my theory.
Exactly,
because there was all this really good game stuff coming out and interesting things that they would do, and then they outlawed booth babes, and all of a sudden the muscles on dudes and boobies on chicks became bad somehow. Like, kids didn't know that there was a difference in gender, not to mention most of these conventions were industry conventions, so kids weren't normally supposed to be there anyway, but even if they are, fuck off. If you don't educate your kids, it's not my problem. All right, I'm angry Joe. But I don't know, I read about the time when they were like, oh no, we can't do that anymore. The conventions just pussied out, and like there was nothing cool happening anymore. Their shows weren't good, they weren't doing interesting information drops. Everything was just one glorified advertisement that you could have easily seen on YouTube anyway. They're trash pieces now, and it makes me sad. And I am going to go back to reading video game publications.
All right. Back to the cringe fest. So the gentleman the creative director, I forget his name. Fuck. Wait 1 second. I will find out.
Mickey McFactpalms.
Creative. I think he was the creative director behind Gearbox. He came up.
He ran the whole thing.
I don't remember his fucking name. He did a card trick, like a magic trick on stage. PAX East Gearbox Nightmare.
I wonder if he like lost a bet during a booze party the night before. Like,
yeah, he's like, oh,
I could see that happening. Then.
Gotta do one of your infamous card tricks next show. He's like, oh fuck.
I hate you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not buying you pizza anymore.
Yeah. Every time it comes down to this fucking card tricks, every card trick he's ever done, or every magic trick he's ever showed off at a show, has been a horrible bet gone wrong. Um, it's like I think it's like Randy Pitchford. No,
There is a Randy Pitchford.
wait a second. Let's find out.
Like that is a name. That is a person in gaming.
Yeah, Randy Pitchford. Okay, I think that was him. He did a cards thing. They were showing off. They had a new it looked pseudo interesting. It was like a tabletop card game that they created for Borderlands, where you like build your own claptrap, and it's more of like not in an RPG sense, but more of like a party game kind of sense. So like almost like
like a mini game.
Like Exploding Cats. Is that what it's called? There's one called Exploding Cats.
Yeah, I played Exploding Cats. It's all right.
Yeah, like that kind of. So it's like a
doesn't
game.
beat like Apples to Apples or that other one, but
yeah, so something like that, but like claptrap focused or whatever. And so in order to show it off, he did like this thing where he had one of the audience members come up and sign a card, and he put it, and then like, but what do you know? That signed card was in the other contestants' like wrapped box or whatever, some stupid shit. And then they're having a lot of issues with the video playback, which made me feel really bad because like I hate that where you prepare all this shit ahead of time. You're like literally live to millions of people, and you have technical issues because it's like it's out of your control at that point. It's really down to the venue or what's going on. And PAX East was fucking up real bad. They're trying to show off their trailer in 4K, but there's something going on with I don't know. Like for some reason the TVs weren't able to handle it, and the frames were dropping from the video. So they eventually, I think they dropped it down to like 1080p, and it eventually worked, and they looked nice. But the trailers got me excited. It looks like just like more Borderlands. It doesn't look like they're doing any. Again, we don't know for sure, but it looks like it's just like a complete experience, like Borderlands 1 or Borderlands 2. It doesn't look like they're trying to do any kind of games as a service bullshit or any like things we've seen in the looter shooter genre since Borderlands 2.
Have done some pretty stupid shit recently, but I wouldn't see them trying to change Borderlands. They know that would lose them their last ounce of good nature. You know what I'm saying? Like we still have goodwill to them because Borderlands was wonderful, and fucking Battleborn was wonderful. It's just nobody played it because y'all are fucking assholes. So I think that I don't think they would go that direction. They can't be that stupid.
Yeah,
people haven't forgotten Space Marines.
It looks excellent. Oh yeah, I forgot the whole thing with the Coil Marines where they took funding.
Yep, for Borderlands 2.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Or was it the pre-sequel? I don't remember which, but
I have no idea. I just know what happened. So
Borderlands pre-sequel was basically just an expansion anyway, just to finish. But they've finished the entire story arc of Jack, all that. That's all done. So unless they pull a comic book like bringing the villain back from the dead or something, they need to take it in a new direction. And I would be, I'm kind of excited because they've got half the cast of the first game. They've got the full cast from the second game. Because I don't think anybody died from the second game that I remember that they can bring back in. So you might have a total of 2 or 3 playable sirens. One of the sirens. Hey, spoiler alert! One of the sirens in the mythology is dead now. So the moment she dies, another one will replace her.
Yeah, they showed off.
So they've got a new one.
They showed off what looked like the 4 new characters. The way they kind of worded the trailer, it looked like almost because it says like not everyone, but like heroes return kind of thing. It would be really cool if they made it where all of the previous characters were playable, including the new 4. And you can play.
Yeah, my favorite's the original Siren. I think to date is my favorite one to play.
Now that's the one that can phase step, right? She like goes invisible. Then
yeah.
I really like ability wise. I like the Borderlands 2 Siren because her ability is really strong. Like just like absurdly good.
Her abilities can be maxed out to like in an MMO kind of way. I mean, that's what I like about all the abilities is when you get on your 4th playthrough. And you're really in the shit, and the game is truly challenging.
Yeah,
you need to play in a 4-player group, and you need to choose all of your powers based off of what you know your partners are choosing. because everything can work together as a cohesive support unit. So, different things cause different buffs and remove different debuffs and give different advantages, and that kind of shit's like super important when you're doing that level of gameplay, because that's when the game really opens up and becomes like ultra fun. And I don't know a lot of people that played it that far, but when you play through Borderlands, each consecutive playthrough does minor dialogue and story changes,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual canon story is the fourth playthrough. So when you do cutscenes, one cutscene might have Tina in it, and the next cutscene might have the sniper dude from the first game instead of Tina. And then when you play through it the third time, it could be something different. And if I remember correctly, it was 4 playthroughs was the hardest mode. But that's the canon one. And I to date haven't. I cheated. I just watched the differences.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have the time to play back through the game. That's what I wanted to do with you, was actually beat the ultimate versions of both games, the second and third, because I can't get a hold of the first one again. And frankly, I played the first one through all 4 versions. That one I don't remember distinct differences, but I started noticing differences in the playthroughs, but and how events played out and how cutscenes played out with the sequel. So
Yeah. So,
but it was I don't even remember what I was saying, that audience. I'm sorry.
yeah, Borderlands 3
I had
looks
a
dope.
point to add, but
It looks like, I don't know, but it looks like, I mean, the worlds in Borderlands 2 were large, like the areas, but it looks like the scale is increasing even like more. So I wonder if they'll focus to, because a lot of it's like go from area to area, almost like Monster Hunter style. Not Monster Hunter World, but the previous ones where you'd have a big area and there's loading screens in between different maps. Where this looks like almost like a more open take, which would be really cool. Maybe there's not as many like breaks in between the maps, and they show off a lot of really fucking cool environments. We got like a typical sand area.
what do you mean, like the background loading? I got you.
Yeah, they got like,
Oh, I remember what I was saying. Hold on. I was saying that the reason why I like the original Siren was because even though her abilities weren't as tooled as the second one, her mobility was higher, because when she would stealth to do the stealth kills, and when she, how she could stealth, and then her speed would double,
mm-hmm.
and you could just haul ass, and you could use it to get out of dangers too. So she was the best character for soloing, besides the soldier who could drop the turrets, because she could pop out, run away, and pop up behind something and do like 8 times the damage and shit. That part was what I loved about her, was that you could, the mobility, because none of the characters to date were as fast as she was. Okay, I'm done. Please continue.
So it looked like, I don't know. Again, this is all from just a trailer. It's really, we don't really have much else to go. They talked about the fact that there's like close to over 1 billion guns in this new game, which is nice. And it was like, it was very much a nod to Borderlands. The trailer is really interesting. If you are tuning in, you have not seen it, I highly recommend you watch it. If
Did they bring Cage the Elephant back? I haven't watched it yet.
What is that? One more time?
Cage the Elephant did the opening song for the first Borderlands.
No,
I don't remember who did the one for the second.
The music I never gave a fuck about. It was more of like what was going on visually. And it looks awesome. I don't know. It looks like they're keeping the soul of the franchise the same, but expanding in different areas. Again, it looks like the guns are as ridiculous as ever. They even have guns that have legs, apparently, so they'll like run around and shoot things almost like mobile turrets. And it just looks like a bunch of fun. Can't wait to pick it up. I was talking to some of our friends group. It definitely looks like it will be dropping on this current gen console. Like we'll be getting it soon. I don't think we'll have to wait much longer for the game. So I was like talking to our Perry and Hector, and it'd probably be something we'd all pick up on PlayStation and just have a group playing it all on PlayStation together. It'd be pretty cool. I
wonder if they're still going to limit it to 4 players per squad.
I think so, because they showed off the 4 players, and they're like, if that wasn't the case, I think they'd have more than 4. Because I still don't think
you would have said something too.
Yeah, I still don't think you can play as the other characters. I think there's just the 4 new ones, and the other characters all reprise their roles and shit in the universe and stuff. But was cool. They showed off pretty much a lot of the older characters. That we have 2 new heroes. It looks like more Borderlands. That's all I wanted from this game. And I'm super excited to just get my hands on it and play it some more, because these are like some of the best looter shooter experiences out there. They're fucking fantastic. And I cannot wait. So that was that. Also, at that event, the whole reason I brought it up in the first place was they showed off another game called Risk of Rain 2. Now, if you guys haven't heard of Risk of Rain, the first one was basically a 2D roguelike game where the idea was you go through like the levels and you find all this equipment. All these equipment have modifiers to your game. So like you can find something that if you kill an enemy, they explode upon death, doing damage to other enemies, and all these other things. You have stuff that will give you additional charges to your abilities, stuff that will like give you like little, like if you kill something, a ghost can spawn of it that will help you in combat. Just a bunch of different things, and there's hundreds of them that all do different things. And they recently announced the second Risk of Rain, which actually is shifting from the 2D environment to a 3D environment. And they had a little event going on where it was coming to Steam Early Access. If you bought it that day, or between that day and the 30th of March, you got a second copy for free. And it was only $20. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, because I played not a lot, but a little bit of the first Risk of Rain, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And
it looks like fun. I saw you streaming it.
Yeah, the 2D one was... the 2D I never got past, like the 2D side. I don't know, something about it. But in the 3D, it translates very well to 3D, and it is super fucking fun. I know they brought the first one to console eventually, but as far as right now, we have no word as to when these will come to console. Right now, it's just PC. But it is a fucking blast, especially with a few people. I gave my code to my friend Nick, and who only has a PC. So we played some games together, and definitely a fuckload of fun. Like, just everything about it. I haven't had like a roguelike style game that is also kind of a horde mode in a while. And this game kind of just scratches all those itches. Like, it's just super fun. The combat's very satisfying. All the items, like one of the biggest things about this game is like all the items have synergy with one another. Like, in crazy ways, and a lot of the game is just figuring out what kind of insane shit that you can come across as you play through, and just what kind of absurd things, because all the items, not only do they grant bonuses, but they stack, and when they stack, those bonuses are increased, whether it be area of effect or the amount that the percentage that you gain from that bonus. So say like last night it wasn't last night. Was it last night, the night before? I don't know. We were playing yesterday or the day before. And there's this robot dude. There's also multiple characters you unlock that all have their own abilities, like Overwatch style. And there's this robot dude that he has like a nail gun that he fires. It's basically like a really fast firing weapon. And he also can switch between weapons, and his second weapon's like a rebar launcher. So it's like a sniper that does a shitload of damage, and it will travel through multiple targets. If you have 100 enemies standing in line, it will hit all 100 of them as it passes through. And I had gotten... There's these syringes that increase your attack speed, and I had like 9 of them. So I was firing like... I don't know for sure, but close to like 300 to 400 nails like every like 10 seconds or some shit. Like, it was absurd, almost to the point where the game was glitching because the hit marker sound effect was fucking up because it was happening too often. And I was just melting through everything. I had like, there's these things you can get that make you do more damage to the bosses and shit like that. So I was melting shit almost to the point where I had so many items that I was like a god, and it was getting difficult because me or Nick and the other person we were playing with, they didn't have as many, so they were dying really quickly, and it was up to me to like finish, because if you die, whoever's left has to finish the wave, where you like summon the boss at the end and kill the boss and then move to the next area, and that's when everyone respawns. So that was happening a few times. Then once it just got to the point, because the way the difficulties ramp up is it's over time. So you'll start on easy every time. And as time progresses and you go through the stages, you'll go from easy to medium to hard to very hard to insane to impossible, and then the final 3 difficulties are I see you, I'm coming for you, and then the last one's just like it's just like laughing, so ha 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 ha, and it scales infinitely at that point. And the way it works that way is every minute a boss will spawn, not even including the final boss at the end, but just a boss will spawn on the map at a random location. And so if you're not clearing enemies fast enough and making money and getting shit, then you'll just get overrun eventually because they have so much health. And it gets to the realms of absurdity. Like all the time, you're just constantly dealing with fuckloads of enemies, trying to get more items so you can do more damage, finding crazy builds and things like that. Just super fun, really awesome game so far. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend you check it out. Again, right now it's only on PC. It's on Steam Early Access. They have right now there's 5 characters. They have 4 more in the works, and they're constantly working on adding more items to the game, more stages and more bosses in its current state. So, and at my point, the gameplay loop is so gratifying. I think all they have to do really is continue that. Add more items, add more characters to keep the game fresh, and add more areas that you fight in. Because right now there's only like 5 or 6 areas that you cycle through as you go through the stages. So if they keep doing that and adding more interesting areas, I know they're working on adding things called modifiers, which will change the gameplay even more. Like before you hop in, and there's like these like hidden areas that don't really have anything in them right now, but they're talking about adding these things called like runic somethings, or I don't know. But I'm like super excited to see what else this team has to offer. And again, like the combat's super satisfying. One of the more satisfying roguelikes I've played in a while. It's just very responsive. All the abilities feel good. And all the characters are unique and diverse. Like another thing that was interesting is there's an engineer who doesn't really have any escapes, but he can put like a shield down and 2 turrets. But all your turrets inherit the abilities that you acquire. So say there's like one item that's really good with the engineer that you can pick up, and it's a like a fungus thing where if you stand still, you emit this healing aura out of you. Now, on some characters that wouldn't be good because you need to constantly move so you don't take damage. But on the engineer, since your turrets inherit all of your abilities, you basically throw your turrets down, put a bubble, and you've created a little mobile fortress that has a healing spot inside of it. It's so fucking strong. And it's just like, that's one of the things that are really good. And every character has their own like super unique like builds that you can come across just as you play, and finding items that do different things, and then focusing certain things. Some characters are tanky than others, some take more damage than others, or have less health pools. It's just there's so much to it that's open for you to explore, because everything's kind of done in a sandbox type fashion. You get the items at random, so a lot of the time the builds you're finding, you stumble across, which is just super fucking fun. Really enjoying it. I've probably put about 10 hours into it already since it came out, which was a few days ago. And
how system intensive is it?
Not at all. It's like the
Could
art.
you play it on a potato?
Maybe if you turn all the settings all the way down, because the art style is very like basic. The idea of it, it's like almost kind of like cell shaded, but not really. Kind of like the cartoony look to it. So I can't imagine it being super intensive unless you get to the point where there's thousands of enemies on screen that you have to deal with, and that's when it gets a little crazy.
The part that I saw you playing, I could not really make out your character. You're playing like a little princess or some shit, and there was a mass of enemies that were all like circles or something. There was like a bunch of like round things all piled up on someone, and you were like kiting them, strafing around them.
I don't know. It depends.
I didn't see any semblance of graphics. It just was 3D.
Yeah, it's really not like next gen in that sense. There's not a lot going on there. But yeah, super fun game. Enjoying it a lot. Excited to get back to it at some point. I need to continue playing Final Fantasy, like the typical grind, trying to get my Black Mage to 70 so I could start gearing them out. They're like 66, almost 67 at this point. But I think the game's going down tonight, so I won't be able to anyway. I think it goes down to like 10. I don't know. I didn't look, but I know they're starting the Final Fantasy 15 collaboration soon. Shawn, I was looking at the Reddit for Final Fantasy, and they have, you know how they're introducing the car for the Lalafell can ride it. You know how the Lalafell rides it? He stands up in the seat and has his hands on the steering wheel. It's fucking phenomenal. I love it.
I gotta get back into 15 to do the content in there too, because I put that site up in the Discord so that you could read about it. But they're bringing a Mikote into 15, and then you're gonna have Final Fantasy 14 style quests that you have to do in the Final Fantasy 15 engine. And even though 15 frustrates me more than it satisfies me, like that has me interested in going back. And I haven't turned it on since they did the Assassin's Creed thing, and I went in just to get the costume, did some of their stupid games, did their winter festival, and then never touched it again.
Last thing I did was the Chocobo thing, like the Chocobo Festival, and I didn't even finish it. I just started it. I haven't played it since.
Yeah, that was like a year before the one that I did.
How would you like link your account? How the fuck does that even work? If I were to go in and play, I don't even know. I mean, it'd be easier for you because it's a PS4, and maybe they're both connected to your account. I don't know how the fuck I'd link my account to that.
They're going to release instructions in April when it comes down, but I don't think it'll be that difficult. More than likely, they'll have you sign into the Square server.
Yeah.
You just use your Square sign in, and then everything figures it out. I don't know.
Yeah. So
it can't be that difficult.
Anything to add before we move on?
No, the game you were playing looked interesting. I want them to bring back a fully featured Gears of War Horde mode.
Oh yeah,
to date, that is the best Horde mode that I played. It was the most fun. It was intense, and even though it got extremely difficult, you never felt like it was unbeatable. Like if you died because either A, you made like a decision, or your team wasn't on the ball. That was the only like if you were playing smart, you could go through it, but you had to stay on your toes. And I just loved how it played. The only other thing that came close was Firefight, and the enemies were too spongy in that.
Yeah, I think I played more of Firefight than I did of the Gears Horde mode because I don't remember. I just never got super into Gears, and I had a 360. I played like the first two, and then I just fell off from the franchise. I didn't give a fuck about what was going on anymore. And then,
I am actually tempted to go and buy one of those cheap ass fucking 360s or Xbox Ones just to get the Gears franchise, just to play that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not going to because it's fucking retarded. But I totally want to because those games were thematic and theatrical experiences.
Yeah, they were
really done in a very classic art style. As a matter of fact, an art style that was inspired by Unreal Tournament, like with the oversized bodies and the super butch characters and shit.
Yeah.
And then they had there were so many art inspirations for that. But the art style was done by comic book artists. So they had this very unique feel, and they had a really fleshed out, very well designed world. I think my only problem with Gears is it relied on supplementary materials to give you the rest of the information because they didn't put it all in the game. They hinted at some things, but really never went into some of. They didn't go deeply enough into some of them. So all you knew is you were getting a very detailed snapshot of this period in time, but you didn't know some of the stuff that was supporting it. But I did really enjoy the world. I loved the story, and the gameplay was always polished. Even that one that kind of wasn't so great, but it was still good. The one about Marcus's kid, the last one.
Oh yeah, I thought I played 4
polished
for like 4 hours, and because I got it for free for being part of the Game Pass for when it first came out, and stopped playing. I was not interested in the story at all. But then again,
they didn't do such a good job writing it. Like if you were to read that story in a book, it would play off a lot better. I think they didn't bring some of the same team back, and I think they should have brought on a better director for the game just to make the story more compelling. But I don't think they'll make that mistake again. None of the other games really had any severe faults. That was the only one.
Isn't the next word falling like one of the girl squad members or some shit? Like I don't give a fuck about that either. I don't know. We'll have to see what
I don't know.
happens.
I read a little bit about what they're working on for the next one, but I know that Marcus is going to have a stronger role in it than he did in the last one, being the damsel in distress and his son having to save him. But they're bringing everyone back, like all the survivors. Obviously, Dom can't come back, but and a lot of the core cast died between 3 and 4. But I think Anya's dead now, if I remember correctly. I think she died. Marcus's wife.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people passed on, but with the new threat not having been squelched, I can definitely see things turning around. Plus, they really want to change the world because it's been a totalitarian state for like God knows how long. After that, I'm not going to get into the fucking geekness of it, but I think it has a lot of potential to keep telling good stories. But I think the best story that was told was the original trilogy because it really came off with it really came off like a science fiction war movie. Like you always got the feeling like you were in a realistic battle in terms of that world. Like everybody always rolls their eyes when you say realism in a fictional setting, but they do establish a certain level of realism for that mythology and adhered to that. And it was just fascinating to watch because I really felt like they put so much time and effort into world building there to make everything feel like it was supposed to be there. And I think that's something that I just wish I saw with more games on the Xbox. I wish they had more stuff that had more love like that. I think they would have done better. They would have fared better against Sony. Because as much as I champion the cause of Sony, they're assholes. Like, I mean, anytime they don't have to do something, they fucking won't do it. And I mean, Xbox has been forced into the position where they have to be that way. But I don't think they're going to turn around from that because they're going to lose all the goodwill they've earned back. So you've got a company now that is going to consistently attempt to make fans happy and gamers happy, and then you've got another company that's sitting pretty on their laurels, thinking they can do whatever they want. And I'm hoping Sony is learning that lesson, but we were not going to find out until the next system comes out.
Yeah, definitely. It's also Xbox isn't doing Sony any favors by like not providing much of a competitive stance against them either. Like, I don't know, like they've dropped the ball in a lot of the recent titles, especially a lot of the
They were
big.
fucked from the moment they started the
Yeah,
Xbox One.
yeah,
That ad campaign put a hole that I don't think they're going to be able to dig themselves out of this generation.
no, definitely not. And even like post that, like it's just I don't know, like people, and you can see it because a lot more people on PlayStations than Xboxes now. It's like there's like 80 something million PlayStation 4 units out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they haven't done a lot to draw people back. Like the biggest thing that they've done, which I applaud them for, is the Game Pass, which is really cool. Like if you're, especially I could see it if you're like a kid and your parents are kind of stingy with it, instead of getting you games every once in a while, they just pay for the Game Pass, and it's like, oh, I have a whole library that I have access to that I could play games from and stuff. And I think that as a whole is really cool, especially since it shits on PlayStation Now, because PlayStation Now is just streaming, whereas the Game Pass is
not what we wanted, not what we asked for. Yeah, Game Pass is a lot closer to what we had asked for.
Yeah, definitely.
Still not exactly there, but yeah, no, I agree 100%. That was plus it benefits both PC and console users. So
the Play Anywhere.
You're pulling in revenue from two sources instead of just one.
It's interesting because I've looked at it and I haven't checked in a while, but the Game Pass on PC is really shit, to be honest. Like there's maybe like 5 titles there. So it's really not worth
I thought they both had access to the same library.
No, you do not.
That's not nearly as strong as I thought it was.
Some titles are called Play Anywhere titles, like Sea of Thieves is one. I know Gears of War 4 was one, where if you own it on Xbox, you have access to it on PC as well, without having to pay for it. And some of the Game Pass titles are Play Anywhere titles, but only the Play Anywhere titles are available on PC, which is like, again, last time I checked, it was like 6 or 7 titles. Let's see now. Xbox Play Anywhere. Let's see what they got new here, because it's been a hot second. Okay, they're adding some stuff. Let's see. Oh, they have added quite a bit. Fallout Shelter, get the fuck out of here.
That game does not work as a console computer game. It really only works as a mobile game.
The problem
It's
is
so difficult to
oh,
play on like a screen
wait a second,
because you're
because
using this like it's a pain in the ass. Maybe it's easier with the mouse,
I can see
but I
that
didn't like
getting.
playing it on
I can.
PlayStation.
Yeah, I can see that getting super problematic, especially as like you get to like having a fuckload of having a fuckload of people like or like rooms
Yeah,
that you have to deal with. Okay, here we go.
and
Let's see.
having to snap switch around between them.
Okay. So I'm looking now. Yeah, even now there's 5, 10, 15. There's 17 titles and half them are dumb ones like Zoo Tycoon, Super Lucky Stage. The only things on here, like if I were a PC gamer and I looked at this, the only thing that would excite me at all to this list is We Happy Few, Sea of Thieves, that 2 Halo Wars titles, and Gears of War. Maybe State of Decay. The rest of these titles are all like throwaway. And this is the
I
only
would have
thing.
gone out of my way to force every anthology series we have on to like all the Halo ones, the Gears ones, the anytime like the Assassin's Creed one, like all that shit. I would have forced out into there
Well,
like ASAP because people would be pulling.
well, Assassin's Creed already exists on PC. The only like you'd have to stick with first party in that
Oh
regard.
right, Steam.
Yeah. So like the Master Chief Collection they have on its way, which is awesome, and it's coming to Steam, which is fucking awesome as well. I am
It'd be stupid
super.
not to because it is one of the most polished first-person shooter series on any platform.
Yeah, and they're also taking the time to make like good ports for everything, which is like the biggest thing because like the thing Halo lives and dies by is its multiplayer and its gameplay, like the actual gunplay and stuff like that. So if that's
Mhm.
not made to be as crisp as possible in a PC environment and as responsive as possible in a PC environment, no one's going to stick around unless for like custom games. So it
If I was in charge of Xbox, I would try and get my hands on the Red Faction license because Sony's not doing shit with it, and it has unlimited potential. And it was the winner in the early days of PS2 and PS3. Red Faction was just huge. It was massive, and it almost reached Halo-like proportions, and then they just kind of started dropping the ball.
yeah,
But
Armageddon
that
was
universe
doo doo.
still has amazing stories to tell, and it still has a very unique identity. And I think if they were to sit there and not necessarily reboot, but remake the series, like start over from scratch, tell the same story,
Mhm.
but tell it a new way, like get the graphics back up to date. Because I have a copy on PSN on PlayStation of the original, and it's still fun to play. It's fun as fuck, but you have to do a lot of gymming with the controls to get it to behave right because it's archaic, and even then it's still rough. Like you can't get the controls just where you want them when you customize them. You can only come to within a certain degree, and it a lot of it is the system trying to mimic, basically trying to transfer over a combination of buttons to make it work properly instead of I can't explain it, but the way that it controlled back then on those controllers versus the ones now is very different.
So
So
you can't
it just doesn't work perfect.
rebind any buttons.
Not exactly, no. I
Oh, that
mean, you can
sucks.
remap the buttons to a degree, but there are certain functions that the original controllers just didn't have,
Yeah.
and when you try and do that on this controller, which is a much more capable controller, it doesn't transfer over perfectly. So like you're not able to play at 100%. Like you can't just run through it being a badass because you got a better controller in your hand. You have to deal with certain pitfalls. It's still worth it because it's still a solid game. It's just old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's real old. So I think it'd be great if they rebooted, and I think it'd be smart for Microsoft to start snapping up these older titles and not just transferring them over, but starting over and telling that story again. You can hit the same beats, but just redo it, remake it, like they did with Resident Evil 2 from the beginning, and you can chop out some of the dumber missteps and just keep a pure concentrated good story because there's a great story behind it. So I think that would be super smart because if they're not able to fucking come up with their own titles, because they just constantly keep falling apart there. They had that one Skinbound or whatever it was. That one looked interesting. They lost
Scalebound.
that.
I think it was
Scalebound,
Scalebound.
yeah, man, that shit looked awesome. And then
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah, none of their first party
Sony's going to
titles.
benefit by having a competitor that's making them fight, and they're not fighting. And the less Sony has to fight, the less Sony fans are going to benefit. So if y'all think you're on top because Microsoft fucked up, you're not. You're not getting the best out of Sony right now because they don't have to. It doesn't financially benefit them to put the effort in when they don't have to. They can hold on to that money because Sony's struggling in every other area of the company. They're losing money. So the only place they're profitable right now is the home computing market, the home console market, and maybe a few other tiny places. Maybe some investments they're making, but most of their business divisions are have been failing for fucking years. So if you think that they're dumping a lot of effort to take care of us, they're not. They're just maintaining the status quo and bleeding that money into areas that to keep them afloat. So if you want them to fight, we really want Microsoft to do better.
I'm all for competition, but the only competition I'm looking for is exclusives at this point.
Well,
So
I
if they
mean
could
that's
pump out
really all
some,
it's been since they copied architecture.
yeah. So if they could pump out some fire exclusives, they could get me off my computer to play a game on the console. Let's see. All
Can
right.
you think of any dead franchises that Microsoft would actually do really well with? I mean, they're good at taking things. No, not Rare. Microsoft. Let's be clear here. Anytime Rare remakes something, they fuck it up. But when Microsoft takes a property and they put their effort into it, they normally do really well with it. And I think there's a lot of dead properties that they could put that American spin on that would be really profoundly improved.
I don't know because they obviously would want to do some like scouting in the market first to make sure that they don't put a bunch of time into something that no one fucking buys. So
I think they could probably start snatching up like Konami properties because Konami's not doing shit with their stuff.
yeah, because to like as much as I love Red Faction, if they rebooted that game and brought it back like from the like first one, I don't know how well that would do. To be honest, even if it was a complete remake, because I don't think that community is as big as it once was, to the degree
You'd
where
be
it would
creating a
be.
new community at that point in time. You'd be drawing in the old ones, but it's got. I mean, it's a science fiction story. It's it's not as far reaching as Halo. It's a little bit more harder edged, and it's a little bit grimmer. I think if they could get their hands on the Deus Ex shit, maybe start at least fucking if they did a 4D or 4K, remake like they did with Resident Evil, like with the
Yeah,
first two games, like not the actual second game, but the second game after
it's
that.
just a
That would be
remaster.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Or
Silent
Silent Hill.
it would really they'd have to get a team together, sit down, and be like, if that was the case, they'd have to again scout the market. Like, what would you guys be willing to buy? Blah blah blah, kind of thing. I just like it just dawned on me that a lot of anime shows are ending this week or are over from like winter. And that I have just went from normally just pseudo giddy to lukewarm in my mood to like chronically depressed. I think about it. Like, could the last episode of Kaguya-sama came out today, or not today, but this week. And when that's over, dude, last episode of Promised Neverland for now. I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, Shawn. Like,
We'll find new shows. I've been scouting some stuff. I have some suggestions.
I want to watch Ro or whatever that shit is on Amazon. I've heard nothing but good things about it. The one with the kid with the katana arms and shit. I've heard it's really good. But yeah, dude, I will revert
I think
back
we
to
should pick a platform and force ourselves to choose something from it because we've been favoring Crunchyroll like pretty heavy recently.
why though?
Just
Like,
as an
what's the
experiment.
point? Oh, fuck that. That was a long intro.
And now you see, guys, how well my suggestions fly over.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Yeah, it's greeted by a fuck
Oh,
that.
we should do this. No. All right. fine, Kyle. We'll get some ice cream.
Yeah. Chocolate?
Yes, baby, we'll get some chocolate.
Thanks, Dad. But nothing but good times ever since Mom left.
That wasn't my fault. I mean, it was, but
the last time I... no, I'm not going to go there. Never mind.
Who would have thought somebody would have reacted that poorly to that kind of porn? Like, I had no idea.
Come on now. You ask her to put on... Oh, fuck. What are they called? Oh, no. The joke is ruined. What are they called?
Like a moment of silence for Kyle's joke, please.
Shit, man. Whatever. Midget porn. That's the easy one to go to. God. Yeah, you better be able to stick it on your dick and be able to lift it off the ground. Right, Shawn?
Yeah. If anybody ever wants to watch absolutely the most funny porn you'll ever see, you want to watch midget porn with fat bitches. Like, that is the funniest fucking thing. Like, I was forced to watch that.
The roly-poly.
And I did not regret it. Like, that was the funniest fucking thing. Like, that dude was working so hard and getting nowhere.
Yeah, that feels bad, man.
It was amazing.
That and cake farts. Fucking cinematic masterpiece.
Cake farts is pretty classic.
You know what I like? Cake farts.
I expected her to have like a pack of Marlboros rolled up in the sleeve somewhere.
That's a cinematic masterpiece right there. Nothing like... I was just playing back in my head. That's imagine, you think someone gets off to that? Someone sticking their ass and farting on a cake?
Does.
Bro, I don't understand.
Hey, even when you read the title, you don't know. You really don't know what you're getting into.
It's morbid curiosity.
Until she starts.
Yeah.
And then you're like, God, how did she make it so wet on command? I don't understand. Like, it should be unpredictable, but she knew. She knew.
I've never seen someone have such control over their prostate before.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. Where are we at? The fuck? All right, let's move forward. 6 minutes in. Beautiful. Housekeeping. We stream on Twitch, as we said before. Twitch.tv/ThoughtPatrol. Feel free to stop by, say hi. If you want to get announcements for that, I recommend following or joining our Discord, following our Twitter, or following our Facebook. That's where I post the oh hey, we're going live kind of thing. If you want to hang out, all those links will be below.
I promise I will try and be part of more of the streams, as much as possible.
The streams happen at weird times. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because my work schedule's shit. Because I work at night, so I try to stream when I can. Like, I've been streaming when I've been getting home from work, which is like midnight. But again, it's late, so it's understandable. But what else was I gonna say? While you're there, feel free to leave a comment. If you heard anything we talk about, is cake farts your favorite porn you've ever seen? Let us know. I'd like a comprehensive review of Cake Farts, the cinematic masterpiece. While you're there,
they need to redo that for Xbox audiences.
Remaster
we need a Cake Farts game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
That'd be a classic, whole new audience. You know.
See, now I'm thinking
make the sequel, Cake Farts 2: The Strike of Nutella.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that would play, because all I imagine when I think Cake Farts is like a really shitty Flash game. So like
a rhythm game.
Yeah. I think like a really like those like 2000.
You've got a gas meter on the left, and you got to smash a button to get the gas meter up.
Exactly.
To music.
Yeah. Oh goddamn.
And it's porn music.
Yeah. Like really soft piano.
Yeah, with like cheesy 808 hip hop synth like behind it.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, where was I? Oh, also Twitter, Thought Patrol. Wait a second, PD, I think is the Twitter at Thought Patrol PD. Check us out there. Again, those are for announcements, any information regarding the stuff we do here. Also, finally, if you really want to help us out, feel free to give us an iTunes review. What you think? Take any rating. Just want some feedback from the community, people that tune in. Let us know what you guys think about the show. We'd really appreciate it. Move forward. We got a mailbag. If you guys want to send us questions for the mailbag, there's a few ways you can do that. You can send it through Discord in our mailbag segment. All the questions get read on the show. If you don't want it read on the show, which I don't know why, make sure that's
too bad.
Yeah. It could be anything. We have no filters here. If there's, as you can tell from the fact that we talked about midget porn and cake farts for the last 15 minutes, if something comes in your mind over the week and you thought it was interesting, you want to hear our opinion on it, yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear from you guys. Again, so Discord and the mailbag segment, you do it on Twitter with the hashtag TPMailbag, Facebook through like the instant messenger, or
did you realize that when you made it TP mailbag that the first thing people are going to think is not Thought Patrol but toilet paper? Like, did that come into your head then, or did it only dawn later? Because you had to have thought of it by now.
It did the first time I said it, like on air. I was like, oh fuck.
I wish I'd been part of when you were making things so I could have protected us from that, because it's too late now.
No one uses it, so we're okay. Everyone uses Discord to send questions in, so that's fine. The easiest way to do it is Discord, so you could join our show. Bruce is at the door, and he is making so much fucking noise.
Let him in.
I asked my mother to watch him so he could sleep in her room for tonight, and she did not do that thing.
Apparently he solid snaked his way out or something. Then.
Yeah, it did. Have you seen that meme? Have you seen that meme? It's like Colonel, I'm trying to sneak around, but my ass cheeks are dummy thick. Oh wait, but I'm dummy thick and my ass cheeks clapping or alerting the guards or some shit like that.
God damn it! I don't know, but I just heard you do it, and that was magical.
That's what I imagine, like Bruce barking about him being dummy thick. As other dogs don't have ass cheeks, but hey. I feel the sickness taking its toll on my body. My corporeal form is falling apart, and I took a swig of tea in the middle of my sentence for some reason. I think the end is nigh. But what I'm gonna do is there anything else? You can also do it through email, thoughtpatrolcast@gmail.com. I just want to hear from you guys. As we said 1.5 million times in this show, that's our favorite part about the show is the interaction with the community, the people that tune in and hearing from you guys. And whether you making fun of us or correcting us or giving us thought-provoking content for the show, we appreciate every single bit of it. So first, we're going to start with Handsome Jack's question. And while you start with the answer, Shawn, I'm going to let the dog in.
I haven't heard from Handsome Jack in a while.
He asked the question last week, but like actually talking to him, I haven't heard from him in a while either. What's the hardest boss segment / part of a video game you've ever experienced, and how long did it take you to beat it, if you even ever did? My most recent one was probably during my soul level 1 run of Dark Souls 3, which took me well over 60 attempts. And for those of you who do not know, a soul level 1 run is basically you play through Dark Souls 3 or any Dark Souls, and you do not level up at all. You can't level yourself up. So you're stuck with your base level, and you have to beat the game that way. So, Shawn, answer the question while I let this fucking dog in.
God, there's been a lot. Like, trying to recall. This is anytime you try and recall something when you have a massive library of shit in your head becomes a problem. Hardest boss. All of the hardest, I don't know, Bloodborne was up there. But...
You played like an hour of Bloodborne.
Yeah, every enemy was a boss in that game. What are you talking about?
Oh fuck.
Well, I think I avoiding those. I think the hardest bosses was probably a Toho boss, to be honest. I don't even remember the fucking game. Also, the fourth, I think it was the 4th level in Ikaruga. There's a lot of shooter bosses that were just absolutely fucking nightmares.
That's the bullet hell one, right? Ikaruga?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That's fun as fuck.
And then, what was it? Treasure made a couple of really just amazing shooters. And there was one where you switched polarities. There were dark bullets and white bullets.
Oh, I thought that was Ikaruga.
No, I think that was a different one. I think, anyway, I don't
Ikaruga is the white and black bullets developed by Treasure. It's Ikaruga.
What was the one they made right after that?
Let's find out. Treasure.
Ikaruga was on Dreamcast.
Here's the developer's treasure. Here we go. Games developed. We have. They made a Hajime no Ippo game. What the fuck?
Yeah.
They made Wario World. That's cool. Gradius. Was it Gradius?
No. I don't know. Gradius bosses were a fucking cakewalk compared to this shit.
They made a bunch of Bleach games. Geist Crusher.
It was shortly after Ikaruga.
There's Tiny Toon Adventures, Hajime no Ippo, Wario World, Dragon Drive. None of these look like fucking.
Maybe it was shortly before Ikaruga. It had a name that was several words. It wasn't just one thing.
Sylphid, The Lost Planet. That sounds cool.
I remember Sylphid, but no, it wasn't Sylphid.
I don't know. These all look like a bunch of weeb games, man. I don't know.
Well, anyway, they were the last boss in that fucking game was.
They made McDonald's.
An ever-loving nightmare.
They made McDonald's Treasureland Adventure.
Is that the one that was actually decent?
I remember there being a JonTron video about it. That's all I remember.
Guardian Heroes was fucking fantastic. I forgot they made that shit. Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga were the two good ones. And the last boss in... No, it was Ikaruga. It was that one. The last boss in Ikaruga on the hardest mode was a fucking nightmare. Like, you were literally making micro shifts of less than a millimeter left or right. And if you were off, and you had to constantly feather the alignment button, and it was a motherfucking nightmare. And then the only other boss I can think of that was ridiculously difficult to the point where it took me a long time was in Ninja Gaiden 3. There was this the third or fourth stage boss. I think it was twins, and you had to fight both of them, and it took the Ninja Gaiden formula and turned into a goddamn bullet hell because of all the shit they were throwing in the air. And that game fucking just wiped my asshole with sandpaper. Like, it was a nightmare and a half.
Good old bleeding butthole.
Yeah, I was brutality. So much brutality. I still have nightmares about that fucking game.
There's a lot of difficult things I've done in video games, so I have to think. I have played through most of the Souls games. Bloodborne being my favorite. But those, I wouldn't say they're the hardest things I've ever done. I think some of the hardest stuff that provided the most frustration that I've done was this is actually kind of hard. I know that
it's hard to remember the one that you want, like I was just grabbing random ones from memory because the moment I was called on to come up with one, it was like immediate forgetting.
I'm trying to look into the past, into like areas where shit was close to being tossed, things were almost broken, kind of stuff. And I think a lot of those memories come from the Destiny raiding days of us raiding as groups in Destiny.
Yeah, but that wasn't always your fault. That could have been another player.
Well, that doesn't mean it wasn't difficult, because you're not only dealing with a boss, you're dealing with retards.
That's also very true.
God,
do you remember that one kid we had when we were doing the Wrath of the Machine raid, and he just kept fucking up everything? But he was like 8, so nobody wanted to boot him because we all felt bad, so we kept trying to make it work for like 3 hours.
I think I remember. I remember the first time we did Wrath of the Machine, and that was a fucking experience all on its own.
It wasn't anywhere near that bad, though. I think eventually the kid was like, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then when he did, we're like, we're fucking done. We just dumped him.
I relieve.
Yes, it was fucking Jonathan, too. Like, all you heard was this whisper that was deadly serious. Everyone leave. And you're like, on it. And you were gone. Like everyone just vanished on this kid. It was fucking.
I remember we also had that one Sherpa dude that sounded like a Jedi Master. I still have him as a friend on PlayStation.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, was his name actually Jedi or something? That's why we called him that.
No, it was some Eastern European name.
Yeah, but he
was an older guy.
Yeah, but we LFG'd him in, and he was willing to Sherpa us, and he basically tossed the whole thing. And he was just like the perfect diffuser for our absurd. Like he was like that one guy.
Rage.
He's in the middle of the house on fire with a fire extinguisher, trying to put everything out. As we're all like at each other's throats, trying to murder one another.
Yes.
Like the whole fucking raid.
And he's like, it's okay, don't worry. What we're going to do is go stand over there. All right, you take him out. All right, no, what I want you to do is go over here. And everybody's like, okay, Dad.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like,
no
Dad,
problem.
Jonathan died. He kicked sand on my ice cream cone. It's like, it's okay, son. Almost like
Can't be helped. It happens. It happens. That was his thing. It was always, it happens. It happens.
yeah. Every time.
And the dude's like just gracefully like pirouetting around bullets and phasing through enemies
Yeah.
and like just he's a freaking ballerina in there, and we're just like face bullet.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was.
stop.
But I think a lot of the rating I've done throughout MMOs, throughout Destiny and stuff. That's like some of they're fondly looked on, but they're also some of the hardest stuff that we've done. And like, I'm not saying that Dark Souls isn't hard, but the thing about Dark Souls is it's purely reliant on how good you are as a player at understanding patterns and stuff like that. And there's never like an element of randomness. And the thing about rating is there always is an element of randomness because it's not just you. There are 5 to 7 to 23 other people to 40 other people that you're dealing with when you raid that can always add that layer of frustration when you're trying to complete a task. Because there's always that one person that is not fucking doing their job properly. Like, and they know what they need to be doing, and they're either just so bad they don't know how to get it done, or it's to the point where it just is, it's not good. No bueno, and having to deal with that a lot is problematic. Because that layer of randomness leads to frustration a lot. Especially in raids. Like I've done a few of the Savage raids in Final Fantasy just to do them. Did some group finding to play them, and it's just the fact that, especially in a lot of the Final Fantasy ones, everything has to be like close to frame perfect, and there's so little room for error. Like it is absurd. There's like, if you screw up once amongst this 15 to 30 minute fight, depending on what level everyone is, it leads to a complete restart, and you are just constantly dealing with that fact. There's a lot of stuff that you cannot come back from if you screw up, and a lot of the times, especially in Final Fantasy, the way they build their mechanics, a lot of times you can see the person that screws up. In Destiny and stuff, since it's first person and stuff, it's kind of hard to kind of find out who screwed up because you only have your view. But when you're zoomed out on a camera in like Final Fantasy or WoW, it's very easy to see who's screwing up in a lot of these things. So it's just layer upon layer upon layer of added frustration to everyone knowing you're the one fucking up, to having to understand the actual essay of information that is regarding this fight, to understand the complexity of the mechanics and all of that. It leads to very, very difficult, and some of the most difficult stuff I've had to do in games. Like Dark Souls, it's hard because you have to be, it's a lot of it's understanding what to do at what time, but you do it a few times and you have it, and it solely relies on you. But the fact that you have to work together with another 7 people to complete a mission, and everyone has their own things that they have to do in accordance over the course of this 30-minute fight, it's just absurd. Like everyone has to be on point, like literally on point, or you're screwed, and there's not much room for error. So that's lead to some of the most frustrating moments I've had playing video games, to be honest, is rating, like end game rating in like looter shooters or MMOs. More MMOs.
I'll try to remember like any other memorable bosses by the time the podcast is over. See if I can come up with anything more worthwhile than the final boss in Ikaruga.
I know Sephiroth in
bastards
Kingdom
in
Hearts.
Gaiden.
He's a pain in the ass.
Well, the thing about Kingdom Hearts is if you worked your way through all of the fights up till then, and you paid attention to the strategies, he's like a much harder version of Cloud. You've got the skills to do it. Like it took me, I think, like a half an hour or 45 minutes to beat. You talking about first Kingdom Hearts, right?
Yeah, pretty sure that's what he's in,
Yeah,
right?
it took me about. There was a boss in that. What was the one where you played the 3? what the fuck? I don't remember which one it was, but there's one where there was an additional boss mode that you could fight out. You unlocked after you finished the game, and the boss had like a bajillion fucking hit points. It was like that dragon in Dragon Quest 3 or 4. It was just unbelievable, and that one was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That was mostly just because you got to limit how many times you get hit, and the fight takes like 4 hours.
All right. So you do that, Shawn. If we're in conversation, let me know if you come across a boss that you remembered. But thank you for the question, Alex. Appreciate it. Again, we always like to extend this conversation. You guys, let us know what you thought the hardest moments that you've ever had in video gaming is. Moving forward, we have XD Funny Guy sent in us a question. Marshall, our boy, coming out saying, coming out. I'm gay. That's not
I just remembered one, the weapons in Final Fantasy VII, Ruby and Emerald weapon, both of them.
Oh, yeah.
If you made one small mistake, if you didn't heal at the exact right time, or if you didn't cast certain buffs at the exact right time, the entire party would be wiped. And it was like, and half the time it felt like luck predicting when like certain things he had were triggers, were tells. But there were times when like you would have to know when to do it. You would play those fights so many times that eventually you would get the instinct to do it and you would make it through the fight. Like I don't know anybody that played that game that couldn't make it through the fight, but it would take you hours and hours and hours of attempts to get the method down because there was no cycle. Every choice was completely random. It was an RNG thing. You didn't know what he was going to do next. And both of them did kind of like the same fucking thing. So if you didn't make just the right choice at just the right time, like it was done. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. I think it took me 2 hours to beat Ruby. And I think like an hour to beat. No, I think I might have beat Emerald on the first try. I think I got lucky on that one, but Ruby weapon just fucking beat my ass.
You say Emerald and Ruby, and it reminds me of Pokemon. All right. Like I was saying, XT Funny Guy asks, Outward came out on the 26th, and it's an indie RPG that is drop-in, drop-out co-op. First impressions, what are some co-op games you're looking forward to? What about RPGs? I've seen a bit of Outward. It looks very cool. Like, I like the look of Outward. I'm not sure what Outward is coming to. Let me see. But it looks dope. That's all I gotta say. To be honest, let me see. What is it? It's on Steam. It's coming to Steam. Okay, that's all I know. Oh, it's by Deep Silver. Interesting. That doesn't bode well, but
they had a winner here and there.
It looks good. I don't know if I'll ever get into it. But let me think. Some co-op games we're looking forward to. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but definitely Borderlands. Fucking yes, Borderlands. I cannot wait. RPGs. I know one RPG I don't even know if it is an RPG. It might be an action RPG. That'll be coming out soon. Or I don't know when it'll be coming out, but Astral Chain coming to the Nintendo Switch by the team, or Platinum, team behind Bayonetta, Vanquish, and Nier Automata. Fantastic dev. Quickly have become some of my favorite devs in the market. They make amazing games, really good stuff. And Astral Chain looks awesome, like a really good addition to their discography. Trying to sound smart, but I'm sick, so my brain is working at half capacity. I'm thinking other RPGs on the way.
Discography.
I'm gonna count. Shadowbringers. Technically, the expansion coming to Final Fantasy 14. Cannot wait for that. Excited to see the new areas and everything. I count that as a new RPG coming to us because it's new content.
Typically, when Square releases content for Final Fantasy 14, it's almost an entirely new game.
Yeah,
they normally make the expansions just as long as all the other chapters.
I cannot fucking wait. I'm thinking, what else is there? You have to forgive me.
It's already out, but I'm looking forward to any of the God Eaters being able to play those with friends. I'm really looking forward to that. Like I got to play the second one with Kyle one of these days,
Yeah, one
and
day.
the third one we can play with up to 8 people, which means if any of our Thought Patrollers out there picked up God Eater 3, you don't have to have played the originals to enjoy the game. If you have any questions about the universe that isn't filled in by the game, I can easily tell you.
Speaking of that, Code Vein. I'm excited for that when that comes out.
Oh hell yeah, dude! We're gonna be all over that.
It's gonna be
And you
dope.
get to see me be all screamy, pissed off.
What's that one coming that I got mad that it's coming to the Epic Store? Exclusively.
Neo's getting a sequel, by the way.
Neo was great. God, that game was fucking awesome.
White Samurai one, that one's getting a sequel.
Outer Worlds, I'm excited to see. I might have to buy that on console because I don't want to support the Epic Game Store. But that game looks dope. Made by Obsidian. What else? Fuck. God forbid. Cyberpunk. You can count Cyberpunk, right? Cannot fucking wait to see. It had RPG elements. Shawn?
What? Cyberpunk's not going to be multiplayer though. It's going to be a single player.
I'm talking about RPGs, not co-op games.
Oh,
I don't know.
I don't consider it an RPG because it's action based, but
it's an action RPG.
I thought he was asking about multiplayer.
Well, he said co-op and RPGs.
Oh,
yeah.
They're working on the next Final Fantasy, but they won't say anything about it. I'm looking forward to finding out what it is. Hopefully, they don't fucking follow Kingdom Hearts and 15.
I know that one thing that's got me. Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. Never mind. I know they teased the new Dragon Age. That looks good. If it is good, hopefully.
They haven't really had a bad Dragon Age. They just had ones that weren't as good as the other ones.
I know there's one that's hated by the community. The second one's one of the best. I think it's the third Dragon Age that no one likes.
No, man. That game is sold like gangbusters. What are you talking about?
Doesn't mean people like it. Also, I
chose Perry on the Dragon Age stuff, and he said that the second one was the weakest link because it dropped some shit, but he liked it.
Perry also liked Andromeda, so how much can we?
Don't say such things.
He did initially. I don't know what he feels about it now, but he defended it. That fucking mess of the video game. I talked to him about it
like that.
I talked to him about it.
God, I can't be friends with him anymore.
I know. I'm sorry.
Damn it!
I ruined your friendship with one single sentence. It is over. The last 10 years you've known each other is gone.
Well, you saw Andromeda, all right? I mean,
I did.
Reasons are reasons.
I played it. Then again, we defended Anthem for a few days until.
Well, because at the time,
Honeymoon,
BioWare was behaving themselves.
Honeymoon. Also,
yeah.
What's that one cult game that's getting a third thing that everyone's super excited about? Shenmue. Can we consider that an RPG?
Yeah, hell yes.
That's exciting.
Yes.
I can't think.
That's a RPG fighting game almost.
Yeah, I can't.
The only thing that isn't really RPG elements is the combat, and the combat's fairly infrequent. Everything else is straight up RPG. It's a true hybrid.
I can't think of much more for co-op in that realm, but Code Vein I'm excited for, and that fits both criteria. So it's co-op and RPG, so that's exciting. I think that was good enough though.
I don't think there's anything RPG at all about the Souls series, and Code Vein's following that formula. I don't understand.
Dark Souls are RPG as fuck though. But then again,
how is that RPG? It's action. You run through, you kill things methodically.
You level up.
I don't understand how that's
you level
up in games that aren't RPGs at all.
It's called an RPG element. You level up,
but that doesn't make it an RPG.
You level up. There are builds, so you can fill a role, otherwise known as role playing.
That's filling a role is not role playing.
You are playing a role. You have a character that doesn't do that starts as an empty slate, and you can build them into whatever you want. That is part of it. That is a part of the RPG genre. Like making a character that it doesn't always have to be someone you could fill in their shoes, but it's building a character into something. Like over time they level, they gain skills, they gain abilities, stuff like that. That is part of the RPG genre. As an
Role-playing
RPG
is
element.
playing a character, the role of a character with personality, hopes, dreams. It has a fit in the story. It's not an automaton that's summoned to accomplish a purpose.
But giving the character that purpose or that story is also part of role playing. You filling in that shoes. They don't have to have their own motives, their own dreams to make it a role playing game. The RPG genre is so fucking broad. It fills so many different areas.
Now,
yeah, that's what it is now. That's how it is.
That's just because people chose to redefine it. That doesn't mean that I accept that forced definition.
Well, you know what? If it's accepted by the majority, that tends to make something fact. If you were to go onto the street and ask 100,000 people that have played Dark Souls if they thought it was an RPG, like 90-something% of those people would say it's an RPG because it is an RPG.
All wrong.
Okay. Let me see.
What else besides Souls, though?
Nothing. That question's over.
So Code Vein is the last one.
Yeah, which is an RPG. Cool. A co-op RPG. Would you look at that? Isn't that special? Again, let us go. I'm excited as fuck for Code Vein. I think the game's gonna be dope.
I think it looks fucking gorgeous.
It does. It's very pretty. I have a feeling it might be too easy though, because not only do you have a AI companion, but you can summon a friend to help you as well. Having 3 people running around in a Souls environment does not seem like they'd have to probably scale it to make it harder. I don't know what they'll do with it, but
what does the companion do, and do they die?
The companion can die, but they come back. I think so, and they just help you fight. Throughout the entire game, you have an AI companion that assists you throughout the story, and you can pick who they are. They all have their own story. They're their own character. I don't know if they level up with you, but I know that they assist you in combat. And depending on who you pick, the story changes because you're developing you're understanding more of their character, their story, and how they affect the world. And there's, I think,
each one of them is a separate person.
I think there's 3 of them,
and they're there for different reasons.
I'm picking the sniper girl because she looks awesome. That's all I gotta say. I don't give a fuck about the dude.
I want the one the one with the blade.
Okay. Thanks for the question, Marshall. Let's move forward.
Is it like a tail blade or something?
So I'm going to admit there's an oopsie last week when we did the podcast. Sam had asked a question about Stadia, and I didn't realize that it was about Stadia. I thought it was something we already answered, so I didn't actually put it in the show. So he had a question perfectly in line with the main topic and shit, and we didn't actually read it, so I felt bad. But he sent us in another question this week.
Don't listen to him, Sam. He did that on purpose. He was like, fuck this guy. And I was like, dude, Sam loves us, and we love Sam, even if he confuses vocabulary sometimes. Like, we love him, and you can't do that to him. He belongs and Cal was like, no, fuck that guy. And then he stepped on your picture, and then it broke my heart. But I stuck up to you, Sam, because I love you.
Probably a fucking...
And those beautiful nipples.
Ooh. Like it. See now, bro, you say all this shit, and see now my train of thought has gone from answering a question to wondering what Sam's nipples actually look like, bro. How you gonna do this to me?
You know they're gorgeous. They're like little pink strawberry swirls. Come on now.
Oh. Can we make the...
So Sam has a good question.
Can we make...
And we are going to read it.
Can we make the main topic Sam's nipples?
Now we're going to talk about something important in gaming right now. Well, I should say doubly important because there's 2 of them. And that is Sam's nipples. We're going to open up the forum for discussion. I want everybody to write in. We need fan art so we can decorate the office walls.
Bro, I just need a picture and I'll make 60 copies of it. All right. He said, hey, nerds. Didn't answer my question last week. Apologize about that. That means I got to give you a wedgie. But I'll hold off until you answer this question. Joke's on you. Wedgies are my kink. So how about that? If Microsoft were to...
Oh, yeah, dude. Do it shirtless.
If Microsoft were to allow Nintendo access to rare games again, which ones would you like to see ported to the Switch? Which ones would you like to see remastered or remade? Answer the questions or I'll hunt you down and hang you up by your boxers. Again, that's my kink.
I will answer that question while you hang me up by my boxers.
There you go, bro.
That one's fucking easy as shit.
Just give me a Banjo-Kazooie, bro. Give me a Banjo-Kazooie collection on the Switch. That's all I want.
Just the first two.
I'm at the point where don't even fucking remake the game. Just move it over. I'll play it in its older shitty looking thing. I don't give a fuck.
They could at least port it up for 1080p graphics. That's not difficult to do.
I'll probably be playing on the go, and the Switch can't even do 1080p, so it don't matter. Well, it probably can, but it wouldn't matter with the small screen. What else? Rare games. I'm about to Google it and
Perfect
cheat.
Dark. The original Perfect Dark.
Sea of Thieves.
Not the fucking version that was on. God damn it! Not the version that was on Xbox. Conker's Bad Fur Day, the original. Although, and then again, I think they did do a port of that to Xbox, but bring that shit over.
I would love
that. Was amazing.
I'm cheating, so I'm looking up all the games they've made. Let's see.
Oh, there was that one game where you had the squad, the 4 different. It was like a shooter, and there was a heavy guy and a fast guy, and then the one that specialized with range and shit. That one, the fuck was that called?
No idea. They made Killer Instinct? I didn't know that. That's cool.
Holy fuck yeah, dude! Killer Instinct all the way. That was my favorite fighting game. I won like umpteen million tournaments for Killer Instinct in Florida. Like I was #1 ranked. It was beautiful.
I was gonna say Battletoads, but we're already getting another Battletoads, so don't want to be a dead bush there.
But we're not. Are we getting it on Switch?
I don't know. It's just the third one.
They can bring back the original one. Battletoads is fantastic.
It'd be cool to see the Donkey Kong Country games come to Switch and like an HD remaster. I'd love that.
Nintendo owns Donkey Kong Country games.
Yeah, they do. It's just
Rare kept those.
I'd like to see that. GoldenEye would be cool to see on the Switch, like a remaster of that.
That'd be fantastic.
What else we got? Perfect Dark, yeah. I remember
with
playing
updated controls.
Oh yeah, definitely.
please. Give me twin stick controls.
I got it.
I'll suck
Shawn,
I promise.
Fuck everything else here, dude. I got the perfect game. Exactly what we need right now in this market. And it will probably revitalize everyone's love for gaming. Viva Pinata.
I totally forgot that was a thing.
Viva Pinata coming to the Switch 2019 summer. I'm calling it right now. Viva Pinata. Also, Connect Sports, please. Connect Sports coming to the Switch. Would love that. And Connect Sports Season 2. Did they do that? I don't think so.
No, but that song was fucking amazing.
Yeah, it was. I might remember that JonTron skit. Oh my god.
I watched the entire series and he skipped it was supposed to be comprehensive and he skipped so many essential Star Wars games that needed to be in there. It hurt my feelings, but I loved it.
Bruce? Shawn, excuse me. I'm going to go slaughter my dog and hang him up on the wall. Give me 1 second.
Poor Bruce. We love you, Bruce. You'll be remembered well. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. That's it. That's all the lyrics I know, guys. Sorry.
What happened? You fucked up again?
I sang like the first line of Amazing Grace and I realized I didn't know the rest of the lyrics, so I quit.
Aw. Oh, they made Marble Madness? Marble Madness, bro. I'd take that on the Switch. That'd be a cool Switch game, actually.
That game was fucking hard.
Wizards and Warriors? That'd be cool.
What? I love that game.
Yeah, that'd be cool on the Switch.
That was before they were rare, though. Come on now. Nobody even knew the name back when Wizards and Warriors was out.
Did they have their name?
Or Marble Madness, for that matter.
Oh no, they only had the publisher name on the box, which was Acclaim.
Yeah, like that's all we knew.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, yeah, definitely, dude. I'd be all over any of one of these titles coming to Switch.
RC Pro-Am, shit.
Now, would this make me play my Switch? I want to say yes, but I've said that about a lot of previous titles, and I get the title, it sits on my Switch, and
here we go. Cobra Triangle. They need to bring that shit out. That game was stupid hard.
Cobra
Triangle. That was
like
a boat. Yeah, it was a boat combat game.
Oh shit. Oh, I see it. That looks fucking silly. 1989.
It was ridiculous. The Wizards of Warriors games.
Oh, they did California games too. Man, rares. They got quite a footprint on the gaming market, dude. All right.
Solar Jetman. Jesus Christ. Like half of their games are just like embarrassing. Captain Skyhawk. Like I'm remembering shit now that I didn't want to.
Yeah, I definitely would love to
Figure
see.
T-Rock.
Biggest thing, definitely the Banjo games. So Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie. I'd love to see
I
those.
can get behind that.
I would be really for like a Donkey Kong Country like remastered collection too. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see that. So I'd be all over those. But yeah, definitely.
Blast Corps, that'd be cool.
We're gonna go ahead and
Blast Corps would be cool.
move on. Appreciate the questions, guys. Again, feel free to send us in some. But it's already been an hour and a half, and we're not even through the fucking news. So
Star Fox Adventures, come on, guys.
don't even shut
Who
the fuck
doesn't
up.
want that one?
Get out of here. Don't talk to me for the rest of this episode. Just be
Enjoyed
silent.
that game.
All right. That was the one where they were on like a dino island, right?
Yeah.
Fuck that
Yeah,
game.
it was like Zelda.
All right. Oh, that was when they introduced Crystal too, right? And it single-handedly brewed a generation of furries. Thanks, Rare.
That part was a little embarrassing. Yeah, she came out and I was like, she should not look that. That's a little
Risque.
like, I don't. Yeah, why?
Wasn't there a scene where she was like moaning too or some shit? Wait a second, give me.
I don't remember that. I just remember looking at her and going, I know somebody's masturbating to that, and that bothers me.
Crystal, Star Fox. Oops.
Oh, don't do that.
All right. Yeah, there was like no, I know what it was. There was a scene where she was like put up on like a pole or something, like being held captive, and there's like porn music playing in game.
That was the end of the game.
That's what it was.
Yeah, she was prisoner.
Yeah. Oh God, no, no, Shawn, please wipe my sight. I cannot.
Jet Force Gemini, that'd be it.
Wipe my sight. I'm looking through the things. There's Crystal. There is a Wikipedia for furries. It's called WikiFur, the furry encyclopedia. Oh, I clicked on the link. Why is there?
You chose your path.
So, what's the difference between Wikipedia and WikiFur, the furry Wikipedia? Let's look at the Community Central. This is so off topic. But I am just one fur. How can I help? Is there a forum? Can I? WikiFur forum. Here we go. Oh, guys, we're doing a deep dive here. I like it.
I'm not helping you.
Proposed categories. This doesn't help me. Water cooler. Here we go. So let's see what the beautiful furry community is discussing these days. All right, let's see. A Christian furry community. Oh, look at this. Does anyone know how to contact the makers of this website? Because I've had to resend the. This doesn't help. Oh, that was a meme. I hope that. I was hoping that was serious. A Christian furry community. Is that proper?
God damn it! They really turned her into a fucking sex symbol.
Yeah, they did.
That makes me so fucking sad. Also, he already had a love interest. I don't know. Did they just forget about her?
It was definitely very different, to say the least. Am I a furry? And if I am, what should I do? Here we go, Shawn. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take the time to read this forum real quick. So, everyone sit back, grab some popcorn. We're going to help you out.
We have limited time. We have other things to talk about. We're not going to go.
We're going to help you out.
Furry land.
It's not take too long.
What we're doing.
I'm helping out. I'm providing a community service. If you are a furry, this is what you should do, guys, according to WikiFur, right? It's like, well, I've recently discovered the furry fandom and am intrigued by it. This is not me talking. This is going to be taken out of context, so I'm going to say that right now.
Oh my God, I just found something, and I'm going to post it in the fucking chat.
I don't want to see it.
Oh my God.
This is bad. Where have we gone?
Oh,
okay.
Shit monkeys. This is beautiful. Oh, it's going in.
Can I finish my story? Can I finish my fucking story? I'm just wondering if I'm a furry, though. I like anthro art and anthropomorphic. That is not how you spell that. How do you spell it? Is it anthropomorphic or is it anthropomorphic? How do you say it? I'm whatever.
Anthropomorphic.
But he has anthropomorphic. Is that a word?
No, but he's a furry, so you can't expect him to have spelling
He also
skills.
misspelled like. So I like anthro art and anthropomorphic characters like from Star Fox. Here we go. See, it all wraps back around, Shawn. Beautiful. I'm interested in the anthro art and looking at fursuits, but I lose interest in the fandom every time because I dislike things such as YIF. Oh, this is where it all falls apart, folks. This is a magical event right now. I feel like I'm ruining the innocence of a lot of people, and it pleases me. I'm not really interested in role playing. Also, why are you looking at fursuits if you're not interested in role playing? Also, I'm in high school right now and I'm straight. I don't know why we need to know that. Should I be a furry? Also, where can I start? Also, I don't know any furries in I don't know any furries in real life. And
What the hell does being a furry have to do with sexual orientation? What kind of moron?
Also, I don't know any furries in real life, and I've only seen a group of furries in real life when I went to the Renaissance Fair. What? Spelled Renaissance
wrong. What
wrong.
are they doing at the? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
The first response was, "Yep, this is a real question." Being a furry doesn't mean that you have to be interested in all things other furries do. If you're not interested in YIF or art, what is YIF? Is that?
Dude, this is more questions you don't want the answer to.
I think it's when you fuck animals, right? Let's see. Or the idea of fucking an animal. No. YIF. YIF. This isn't helping me. Slang word in the furry fandom. Here we go. No. I'm on Know Your Meme. This is how far we've sunk. It refers to sexual activities and furry pornography. Okay.
So I can put this picture in so that the listeners can see what the fuck had me laughing. I put it under pets because it's Crystal.
Oh no.
God damn it. I don't even know.
The problem is no one posted pets, so that's gonna be there forever.
Oh, I'm definitely putting it in there now.
Oh my god!
So if you're listening, it's in the pets forum.
But the problem is they'll see it before the episode comes out. So they're gonna have no fucking clue what's going on. All right. Let's move forward. I don't know what the fuck happened.
The world is wondrous.
Yes, it is. What a beautiful place the internet is. That's all I gotta say. Let's move forward. We have news. Actually, wait a second. I skipped something, didn't I? Box office. Just do box office tops real quick. I'm just gonna go through these super fast. Dumbo made $45 million. I heard this movie was shit. I don't know how shit it is, but everything I've heard about it has not been positive. It's made $45 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of $116 million worldwide. Number 2 is Us, which I've heard is decent, pulling $174 million worldwide in its second week. At number 3, we got Captain Marvel, pulling $20 million, still making money, almost at $1 billion worldwide. Number 4, we have 5 Feet Apart, pulling $6 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of... Come on, internet. They don't have it on the same page. I have to click to get to the next one, and it's annoying. All right. Well, at number 5, we have Unplanned, pulling $6 million for the weekend, and none of them are loading anymore. So that's that. That's the box office. Have you heard anything about Dumbo, Shawn?
I heard Tim Burton needs to start doing his own movies and get the fuck away from Disney. That's what I heard.
The thing is, I don't understand.
He's got a good cast, and Dumbo looks
real
weird.
Oh,
yeah. I don't just Dumbo's not supposed to look real. Dumbo, I don't know. It's weird to see Dumbo real. I don't understand why they picked Dumbo when the entire story behind Dumbo is a little. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not into old Disney movies. Like, I don't look at Dumbo and be like, man, I fucking love that movie. Like, that just doesn't fucking happen. Like, Dumbo is the movie your parents loved when they were fucking kids. It's not the movie, like, I'm like, I like Lion King. That one was all right. And I like the Atlantis one, the first one. That one was pretty cool. There were no fucking song and dance routines in that.
I think it's
Treasure Planet.
I think it's corporate greed right now, pretty much at its finest. It's like, let's bank on nostalgia. We're gonna remake all these old movies. We got Aladdin, what's it called? Lion King. We got Beauty and the Beast. It's just like let's take stuff that people loved as a kid, make subpar versions of them in live action that look really nice, that will entrance people with their trailers. A bunch of people see them, everyone, and then the internet just forgets about them over time. Nowhere near close to the like timeless classics that were the originals. At least that's the opinion that I've acquired from hearing, because I haven't watched any of them. I don't give a fuck. That I've heard from other people that have talked about them. So I think it's just Disney doing their thing. It's like, oh hey, there's something that we can bank on in a manipulative way. Cool, nostalgia, let's get it. But like you made a good point. They have a lot of really good movies that weren't as big that would make really cool live action. Like Treasure Planet would be an awesome live action movie if they took the time to properly remake it and stuff like that. But they haven't done anything like that. So I don't know. I think
not everything has to be a CG fest.
exactly.
You know, they could take like Atlantis or Treasure Planet, which were these two ones that have cult followings because they were so well done,
Yeah.
but nobody went to see them because they weren't your typical Disney stories. And they could make them. They could. I mean, obviously the special effects would have to be CG, but all the actors, it could be like an Indiana Jones style thing, like the original, not the original, but the Brendan Fraser Mummy. Like it could be done like that, and the fucking movies would be fantastic, and I would love that. You don't have to have fucking CG animals and CG lions and half the staff being CG. Fucking the Little Mermaid. I mean, you gotta fucking half the characters are gonna be computer. So like that's fine, but I mean, after a while, why don't you tell us a new story? Give us a new character. Like all you've been doing is rehashing the old stuff. Stretch it out. Like take 20 or 30 years to do that instead of 5. For fuck's sake.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like the Beauty and the Beast one. Like when I first watched it, I only watched it out the corner of my eye and I loved it. And then I went back and actually watched it, and it was horrible. Like, I mean, there was a few tiny improvements, but almost everything else was like an SJW rewrite of the original, and then they would put certain content in, but then remove the important context so that it meant nothing. They changed characters and made them worse. Like, it's so many questions nobody was asking about the original story that they felt they had to answer because somebody with a purple mohawk would be fucking up a rainbow mohawk. I'm sorry, single colors, you're fine. But a fucking rainbow mohawk out there was going to get upset and fucking air horn them when it was just so bad, and they're doing it to all of them. Like we love your classics or we don't, but why are you? I don't. Just the whole Hollywood machine right now is garbage. I am glad that there are people like fucking Jordan Peele out there who are sitting there challenging the establishment and making movies they want to make, regardless of what the corporate infrastructure thinks. I wish somebody would do that with Disney.
Yeah, and if they're good product, you'll see people flock to them. Word of mouth will spread, stuff like that. Like what has happened with Get Out and Us in these films, he's making money off of it. It's not like if you decide
Us is awesome, by the way.
I haven't seen it.
Us is really good. Get Out, I wasn't the biggest fan of. I understood what he was doing. I've just never been that kind of story guy. Like those kind of stories just never entertained me. But what he did was solid. Us is good. Like it's super fun. You should check it out. Like the kill scenes in that, like the gore stuff, like everything was just super creative. Like this is a dude who loves horror movies, but realizes that horror movies should also be telling you a fucking decent story. Like you should care about the people on the screen, or else the deaths mean nothing, and it's boring. And like Us is fun. I want to go see it a second time with some friends because they passed it by because they didn't know what it was. Like I want people to see this movie. I want more of this.
Cool. I'll when it comes
Totally
to
different
DVD,
thing. Sorry.
I don't see film often. Like there's it has to be something pseudo special. Speaking of film, the Studio Ghibli event's happening soon, so that's got me excited. I know the first one's early April, which is Howl's Moving Castle. And they're just showing a bunch of
I found
films
one
off
near
again.
me, so I can do it too.
I cannot wait. They are fucking fantastic. So let's move forward. We got some news before we get to our main topic. The Sega Genesis Mini has been revealed. It has 40 games on it. Excuse me. Sega has indeed announced the Genesis Mini or the Mega Drive Mini, if you're in Europe. This dog is going to... I will murder somebody. I let him out. He whines, and I let him back in. All right, Shawn, sing Sega until I get back. Okay, real quick.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, listeners, we're not doing that. This is something we're not doing. Kyle will find out when he edits the episode, but that's not happening because that's special. But I will say I'm glad that the new console is not
Did you do
like
it?
their last 50 million new consoles. Yeah, I totally did it, man. It was awesome.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it. I know you didn't fucking do it.
I got you covered.
It's like a thing where it's $80. And do I want to spend $80 on this? That's the thing. Like, how far will nostalgia take me? But let's look at the games, see what they got on here. The company has confirmed that some of the listed titles will include Sonic the Hedgehog, Echo the Dolphin, which was my shit. I loved Echo the Dolphin. Castlevania.
Yeah, but did you play the side-scrolling one or the 3D one?
Side-scrolling. The original Echo the
Dolphin. I played the 3D one on Dreamcast, and that shit was fun as fuck.
I like that it went from being a dolphin to an alien shit going on. I thought that was very interesting. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
The dolphins were always aliens. They came to Earth like a long time ago. They just were leaving for some reason. They had always been aliens.
Yeah. Castlevania Bloodlines, Space Harrier 2, Shining Force.
Bloodlines? Like the... Hell yeah, Bloodlines!
Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Why do they always include the Dr. Mario fucking clones?
Toe Jam and Earl, which is awesome. Comic Zone, Altered Beast, Gunstar Heroes. And they said that the remaining games will be announced intermittently over the coming months. So that's pretty cool.
I like the second Toe Jam and Earl more than I like the first one. I like the platforming one. The first one was boring.
It's based off the Model 1 Genesis, and it's like half the size, which is pretty cool. It's a little small thing. Comes with the typical affair you see with these little things, so cable, HDMI stuff. It looks cool. I always felt like $70 to $80 for these things was a little expensive. Although this one has like double what the original NES one had, right? The NES one had like 24, I think, games. This one has 40. So that extra $10 I kind of get it, but when you can emulate 90% of these things in the first place, which is illegal, don't do it. I don't know. I feel like $80 for this is a lot of money. I still feel. I don't know if nostalgia will get me to get to the point where I could own this little plastic thing that has games on it.
If they make it well, it'd be worth it. But the only thing that ever got me about the Genesis was the sound chip. Like, they had some great, like, Tommy Tallarico and shit like that back in the day. They made some amazing chiptune soundtracks. Like, these guys were fucking just bomb-ass, good composers. And so Genesis got some really great music, but their sound chip was such garbage. Like, that was the one thing that always got me about their sound chip was it was so bad. When you go back to the Super Nintendo, which at the time sounded amazing to me, now when you listen to Super Nintendo, you realize it's got all these weird, blurry, murky sound thing going on. But at the time, like, it was just so much cleaner and it had more channels, or at least it sounded like it did. Whereas, like, in truth, I don't know, man. I just hated the fucking sound in that game for some reason. It was so difficult. I hope that they are able to, like, clean up the sound channels a bit when they bring it out, so you don't have all the popping and all that kind of shit that happened with the Genesis, because I played some of the emulated games on the discs, like on PS3, and they still sounded like ass. It was like the graphics were fine because they had up-resed them a bit, but the fucking sound was just terrible. Like, trying to play Vector Man was ear rape. And they had some good games on Sega. Like, it was a solid console. It wasn't my bag, but I was more of a Super Nintendo kid, but it was still a good console.
I just played what was sat.
I would buy it.
I just played what was sat in front of me, and that was the original NES for a very long time, and then eventually the Nintendo 64. I don't know the time frame at which I got stuff after it released. Like, I don't know how many years had passed since I received it, but then the 64 lasted me until the GameCube, and then the GameCube lasted me until the Xbox 360. And then
your best chiptune libraries are going to come from the NES games that were made by Konami. The Capcom NES games, a few developer NES games were really key because they were known to have just really good soundtracks. And then you had like a shitload of stuff on the TurboGrafx. You had a bunch of stuff on the Sega, because a lot of those guys that did music for the TurboGrafx also did music for Sega games. And then you had a handful of stuff on the Super Nintendo, but a lot of that was the orchestral stuff on the RPGs, especially like the Final Fantasy series, the Saga series. They did really amazing stuff with what the Super Nintendo was able to do.
Yeah.
You really lost chiptunes after that era, because when you went to the CD based systems, they were using Redbook or MP3, and the 64 was using MP3s. The 64 had orchestral shit too, but there wasn't a lot of soundtracks on the 64 that really stuck out into my memory. Like everybody fondly remembers Ocarina of Time, for instance, but in reality, the music in that, like when you compare it to any other Zelda game, was just kind of bad. And I know I could probably be lit on fire for that, but I'm not looking through nostalgia glasses here. Like the game is fun, but I would rather play the like Twilight Princess, or listen to like something Twilight Princess and forward, or the chip tunes from like the 16-bit or 32-bit like handheld Link games,
Yeah.
than listen to or play Ocarina of Time, because it's just an ugly fucking game. It was not. I mean, it was creative, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. But it's not a place I want to go back to. Like I enjoyed Twilight Princess like twice as much. But when it came out, dude, Ocarina of Time, that was my fucking jam, dude. I was in love with that game.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a really big step forward, which I think is why a lot of people latch onto it so hard. Not saying that it's a good or bad game, but just like the impact it had.
It's a cultural touchstone, you know.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, like, I mean, normally it's not just buying a system that brings you into a franchise. It's a specific title that draws a lot of attention, that draws people to a franchise. So your jumping on point for Zelda was normally either, you know, the first game because you owned a Nintendo, the 16-bit game because you had a Super Nintendo, Zelda 64 because you had the 64, but not just because of those, but because the first game, the third game, and the fourth game had major press campaigns, a ton of accolades. They were in all of the video game magazines. So there was a ton of attention brought to them. It wasn't just because they were known in the franchise. Like they really build those games. When Zelda 2 dropped, there was an ad. I remember the ad campaign for it, but what drew people to buy the game wasn't the ad campaign. It was the first game. Whereas with same thing with the Game Boy games. Like the Game Boy games were picked up because you were already a fan, but you didn't necessarily buy Ocarina because you were a fan. You hit Rockstar status. So that was people's first introductions to Zelda games, were normally those major flagship points.
Yeah, I
Like
feel
a
that.
lot of people didn't get in on Twilight Princess. They got in, like if you didn't get in on Ocarina, you didn't get on Twilight Wind Waker,
No,
because Wind Waker made such a big noise because it was such a big change in style. Everyone was talking about.
no, yeah, I feel you 100% because when I bought the PS4, I bought it for Bloodborne and nothing else. I abandoned all my friends on the Xbox to play Bloodborne. And I'm not sad that I did because the PS4 was as big as it ended up being. But my first step into that was Bloodborne purely, and from there I enjoyed everything else I've done. It was a great time. So
And that makes Bloodborne a cultural touchstone for you. Like when you look back, you're not just going to remember Bloodborne as Bloodborne. That's going to be the thing that as a matter of fact, every time you fucking bring it up, like almost every single time, it's always, that's the game that brought me back, or brought me into. And when people remember their first Zelda experience, it's normally going to be, if they're over 40, or like late 30s to early 40s, it's either going to be the first Zelda, or it's going to be A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. And if they're mid 20s to mid 30s, it's going to be Zelda 64, or it's going to be the one I just mentioned, the fucking water one.
yeah,
I don't know why I just drew a fucking blank on that, but it's going to be the animated one. Like there will be a handful of people that'll say Twilight Princess, but most of the people that dove into Twilight Princess were the ones that were hardcore fans already, and as much as I've loved every entry of Zelda thus far. I haven't played the last one yet because Shawn apparently doesn't play what he buys, but every entry
Who
I've
would have
played so
thought?
far, I loved Skyward Sword. I thought Skyward Sword was amazing, but I don't think Skyward Sword resonated with as many people. I don't think that was like a jumping on point for a lot of people.
No, I hate motion controls with a passion. So it can fucking go
I
die
think
in
the
hell.
the quality of the game won over the shittiness of the motion controls.
Okay. So moving forward, we have one more article real quick. Something small but big impact in the industry. EA has laid off over 350 people.
Who's surprised by that? Said no one.
We've seen a few companies lay off people over the past few months. One of the more notable ones earlier was Activision Blizzard's layoff. One thing that kind of is the same ish between these two is these layoffs happened in areas that weren't development teams. So we aren't seeing developers being laid off. A lot of these layoffs are like the Activision Blizzard one. A lot of their layoffs came from the esports / PR market. So a lot of the people that are laying off, which is something that, from what I understand,
Well, that's
from
Orlando, man.
yeah, from stuff that I've heard from other people that are within the industry, say that this happens often, especially in a lot of tech companies, especially larger tech companies. What they do is, as they prepare for new projects, they'll often overhire just to anticipate, and then a lot of times after either something goes through or something's kind of ridden its ride and it goes through its life cycle, afterwards they'll just let people go. It happens a lot, like quite often. And basically the CEO from EA, Andrew Wilson, he had came out and said basically, today we took some important steps as a company to address our challenges and prepare for the opportunities ahead. As we look across the changing world around us, it's clear that we must change it. We're making deliberate moves to better deliver on our commitments, refine our organization, and meet the needs of our players. As parts of this, we've made our changes to marketing and publishing organization. So basically a PR dick suck that is not necessary, because I don't trust a single word this man says.
Well, people will light them on fire and they find out they laid people off, but people don't recognize is a good half of game design, game creation is contract work.
Yeah.
That's why when you read a resume, like when you watch something like GameSack, which I like to watch because they cover a lot, like they cover all games across all consoles, all generations, and they go through genres and they'll pick a theme for an episode and just focus on that. So you'll get something from Nintendo, something from Saturn, something from Xbox One, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they go into the staff behind the games, and you'll pick up names like these guys that worked on Konami for a while, then they worked with Capcom for a while, then they worked over here, and that's because they get hired for a gig. They'll be kept for a while, then that contract will run out, or like you said, they'll get laid off, and then they'll just go somewhere else. Like you don't consider in game design, it's rare to consider a place your permanent home unless you're part of a production studio, and even then, a good portion of their staff could be liquid. It's rare. Like the American staff producing the small production studios were really the first ones to start keeping a permanent staff all the time. Like, of course, Nintendo keeps Miyamoto, and they kept, certain big name guys because they're celebrities, not just because they're talented, but also because they're well known. Their names sell games. But with the American style, we've always had a fairly common thing with our corporate structure, whereas you start a company and you stay with the company until you retire. That's the whole fucking idea. And whereas that's obviously not the norm for everyone, that is the perceived norm. So people do go into a video game company hoping to stay there. But that's just not the case. Like, so people are surprised when that doesn't happen. But like Kyle said, the industry is very fluid. I'd say a third of the industry is very fluid. The rest of it stays fairly static, but that fluid set is constantly
Shifting.
flowing between different companies working. Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're music, if you're programming, if you're art design, it doesn't matter. You're going to be bouncing from studio to studio to studio, doing work wherever there happens to be work. I have a friend that works in gaming. He works in character design. He's a graphic artist, and he's worked on games for like 30 different studios. He's worked on like 30 different games. Some of them are shit. Some of them are like fucking cell phone games by that one company that does like all the fucking anime style cell phone games. He's worked with them. He's worked with fucking on Nintendo stuff. He's worked on shit you played on PlayStation, on independent games. He's done a ton of shit, and most of that stuff is not owned by the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all he does is contract work. He hasn't been permanent since he started. He did some stuff for Tiburon, which is where he got his start. The Orlando office, he did some like artwork or something for some of the football games.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's if I remember correctly, that's where he got his start. But he's moved around since then. So it's not. I mean, it's horrible news for those people, but normally when that happens, other studios are looking for employees and they start snacking on on new hires or like and pulling from that pool of people that just left EA
Mm-hmm.
or whoever.
Yeah. So it's more of understanding that this is something that does occur. And it's a lot of the things, it's more of like a product of the environment. So when these people, a lot of times when they do apply and they get hired in these spots, this is always something that's kind of like in the back of their head. Like, well, my job here is not necessarily permanent. So as shitty as it is to lose your job and then have to deal with that in between stage of moving to a new company and all that stuff, it's something that they're not necessarily signing up for. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it is something that is present in their minds a lot of the time, especially in some of these areas that aren't as static, like these PR companies or esports divisions or shit like that. Those things are in and out all the time. And a lot of times, again, they'll prepare for a big project coming up and they'll get ready, and then either it's not as big as it was intended to be, so people have to be let off and all this other shit. It's always happening, like a lot. So it's not something as many other reasons there is to light EA on fire for all the bullshit they pull, this isn't one of them. It's just something that's happening, and it's something we take. So that's all. That's about it for that. So we're onto our main topic here. So the idea here with this is free to play is an interesting monetization structure. And there's a lot of games that do it well. There's a lot of games that do it poorly. And I think that there's something to be learned from free to play and the way that people treat their consumer base in that. Because one thing, it's even interesting when you look at it in different genres, because some take it differently. Like if you look at Warframe, which is, I think, a pretty good job with its monetization structure, a lot of the time, the idea behind monetization in free to play is you should not be. One thing you should and I think a lot of games that do get this wrong is MMOs when they go to their free to play market. A lot of the time, what they do is instead of, again, favorite word, instead of incentivizing people that are playing for free to spend money on the game through like cosmetics or just like manipulative methods, so like stuff that isn't loot boxes, which a lot of it's crazy how many games go to loot boxes or like cosmetic purchases and stuff like that. And they have to get away, they have to profit. There's nothing wrong with seeking profit. That's the idea of the company. And in a lot of games, especially ones that are games as a service model, the only way that game is going to continue in its development is if it's making money in one way or another. So I understand monetization. The idea is it kind of has to be a two-way road between the developer and the consumer, where it's almost equally beneficial. Like you're getting what your money's worth out of stuff, and you're not restricting players out of content just because they're not paying. Like in an MMO sense, a lot of times if you go for a free to play market kind of thing, what they'll do is you'll have a free account and it only has access to this much content, and then you're locked out of everything else unless you pay for the additional content. Now, I'm not speaking about a trial where you get access to a game that's normally paid for. I'm talking about a game that is entirely free to play and they have a secondary subscription based service where you get all the extra content, because at that point you separate the player base. And that's one of the worst things you can do is is do stuff like that, separate the player base, because then you alienate your consumers in the less content rich side of the game, and they don't stay as long, and they're not incentivized to do anything if you're again alienating them and treating them like shit in that degree, with the free to play model. So it's very interesting because it has the here and there. Like some companies do it incredibly well, some companies do not, and there's a lot of genres that it does not work in. But there's a lot of genres it does work in. Um, so one thing with the God, the damn dog, he ruined my train of thought. He's at the door. Shawn,
Yes.
I'm losing my mind, man. Fucking this dog is such a piece of shit. I'm gonna let him back in. I've let him in and out 4 times because people have gotten home and he'll jump off the bed, which you've heard. I'm 100% sure you guys have heard. So that's what that has been, and it has been a nightmare this episode. So Shawn, provide your opinion on the free to play thing while I let this fucker back in.
I don't even know where to start. There's games that I've seen that do the free to play model extremely well. You know, they give you a solid game. It's got a solid experience. They don't typically they don't charge for expansions, but the things that set you apart, and sometimes things that make the game a little bit easier or provide a competitive edge are released. You know, but they're not normally drastic improvements. They're a step up, but they're not like 10 steps up. Like I like what Warframe does. They give you a free game. It's a solid game. It's not my favorite game. Like I feel like it's repetitive as shit and the environments are limited. But when you do come into a new environment, it's a joy. You know, they do these randomly generated maps that don't feel too randomly generated, but there are a lot of weird dead ends and construction choices that don't always make sense, and that kind of sticks out. But what you do get, the combat's smooth, it's satisfying, it's fun to play, and what they charge you for is all of the skins, all of the frames, all of the more deluxe version of the frames are a little bit stronger and more attractive. All of that you can go and buy. Not only that, but you can also grind out and make it yourself. Now you put a healthy chunk of time in when
Yeah.
you're grinding, like it's a long time. But the thing is you don't have to pay for this stuff. And I'll be honest, when I was playing Warframe Heavy, I think I gave them close to $200 because it was worth it. And it's not like I did it all at once. I did it in bits and pieces here and there. But number one, I wanted to support the game that my friends and I were having so much fun playing, and I wanted it to continue. And I wanted that business model to continue. So I would put money in here and there, and that's how they support themselves. That's where all of that comes from. And I also did the same thing with Neverwinter, which I thought was a really good free to play MMORPG. I still enjoy that game. I still have a lot of fun with it. There's a ton of depth to it. There's a million and one things to do. And they do the same exact thing. Like most of the thing about Neverwinter though is there's a good portion of stuff that you can only get by buying it. No, in Neverwinter, that most of that stuff, I like 60% of it doesn't give you a gaming edge, but there are like gems and things that you can buy, or gem boxes, or chests and loot boxes and things you can buy that drop stuff that give you an advantage. But it's not a competitive game, and I really think like they're doing it well because I played through that game, and there are certain classes you can't play without buying them and stuff like that, which grates on me slightly, but only slightly, because what you do get is very high quality. It's very well built. It's extremely well written, and you get a complete game at your disposal that you don't have to pay for. And it's not like your progress through the game is hampered by not being able to get all these extra special things, these super gorgeous mounts, and so on and so forth. It just means you don't look super special. You don't have glowing weapons. You don't stick out. And they know, these game designers know that you want to stick out, especially in a free to play game. You want to show off what you've earned, what you've ground for, you know. And I think I supported that game by putting some money into it. I really like that game. Eventually I'll go back to it. It's just that Final Fantasy 14 has so much shit to do that I haven't had time to go back to it, and it is a better game.
About to say,
But I
and
think
it's
those games are
vastly
doing it right.
superior.
Yeah, well, of course, man. I mean, it's got to be vastly superior.
Yeah, you pay
They're
for it.
getting in a ton of money from subscriptions, so they constantly have time
One
to pay people to do content drops. Whereas Neverwinter does a content drop like every couple of years, and they spice things up with seasonal events.
Here's a question.
Final Fantasy does a constant seasonal event and does a content drop like every 2 years.
Yeah, here's a question. So now say if you have a free to play game, I'm going to pose this, and then again, as we always like to extend this conversation, I'll pose this to the listeners as well. If you have a game that has a PvE/PvP environment that is free to play, should things such as bonuses or things that give you an edge be sold to players with real money? Should that be something that should be allowed?
So.
You don't think so?
Like in the PvP, in the PvE arena, I think so. I think you and I get a free to play game and I don't want to support the game, but I want to play it, that it's understandable that it's a lot more difficult for me to things that give me a +10 to damage or something, right? Like I got to grind for that. Whereas you can go into the market and buy it a la carte. And a la carte, by the way, is the best way to support a game. That's why I think AAA should really fucking learn is like if you want to microtransact people, a la carte the shit, a la carte the schematics, a la carte the skins,
no, definitely,
a la carte everything. Like that's the way to fucking go.
Like one cool thing,
I even like the fact that Final Fantasy does that. All the shit that's in the optional item store, none of that gives you a real advantage except for skipping parts of the game.
You know what's nice?
Otherwise, you're just getting fluffy things, and it's all a la carte.
Yeah, Final Fantasy has no loot boxes that you pay for. There is only one loot box system in the game, and all it is that as you do one of the deep dungeons, which is like these kind of, it's like an in-game meta kind of thing that you level quicker, and you can get experience for your characters quickly. They have these like sacks that you can get that you pull out, and you can take them to a lady, she'll appraise them, and you get a random item. You do not pay for them.
Yeah.
They are not, there's no way of purchasing them, so they don't. They're
also not a guarantee. You have to find them. You have to work to find them.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's a reward just to get a sack. Like it's not like everybody is just going to get one.
Yeah, and a lot of it, and none of the things that come in them are, they don't give an edge at all. A lot of them are cosmetic, so like clothing pieces, even mounts in later levels, and stuff like that. And that's the only thing they have. Everything, like Shawn was saying, everything in the store is a la carte. I like the idea of that because I like the idea that if you're spending money on something, you should receive your money's worth. And with loot boxes, that is not the case because you are gambling for your money's worth. You have a possibility. Well,
loosely speaking, it's not exactly gambling, but it's close.
Well, yeah. The idea though is that
you always get something for your money, and with true gambling, it's you get something or you get nothing.
Well, yeah.
So you're getting something for your money. So you can't exactly call it gambling, but it's close.
The thing, though, is like with that, and we've talked about this before, because we talked about loot boxes a lot on the show, but is that with a digital item, if it cannot be resold and you do not want it, to you, it has no worth. So say like in Overwatch, per se.
I understand.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, if I get a golden Symmetra skin,
system works. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I go to buy a loot box in Overwatch and I get a golden Symmetra skin, that is worthless to me at that point. So that at that point I took a gamble and I got nothing from it because I don't enjoy that character at all, kind of thing. Or I got like these stupid boxes in Apex right now. Again, I hate loot boxes. Does Fortnite do loot boxes?
Yeah, okay. I think loot boxes are garbage. I really, unless they give you the odds. I think if they give you the odds of every single item you earn from it, then I think it changes the dynamic.
Still,
but very few companies do that.
Like much rather, like we're saying, a la carte. Like one cool thing I like about I like about League of Legends a lot is that they have a store. You can buy anything with money, anything, and now. It doesn't provide you an advantage because the way the game works is everyone starts at level 1 where they start a level. So the only thing you get is if a new character comes out that's really strong and you don't have the in-game currency to purchase them, you can buy them with real money. But again, there is no advantage there. But they have a system where you can, if a new skin comes out, you can buy that skin and you own it forever, blah, blah, blah. But later on, they introduced a loot box system that you can acquire in game, and you can buy them. Obviously, you can always buy loot boxes, which I do not like that idea. If you're gonna have it, I'd rather it be in the game as something that you can grind for, but you're not spending money on. Again, for the same reason, if you buy it, there is a
being there if you can both buy it, grind it, or pick up a loot box for less. Like what Elder Scrolls, the Elder Scrolls Online game,
yeah.
does is you can buy everything a la carte except for discontinued items. And sometimes, and then in loot boxes, they'll have loot boxes. They list what the odds are and they list what's in the loot box. So and the loot boxes are a lot cheaper. They're like 2 of those whatever coins instead of 50 to buy it a la carte. But you know what your odds are of getting it. You can buy it a la carte, or you can buy a loot box, and the games are free to play. Or a lot of that stuff you can grind in game to get. And for the stuff that you can't, or for the things that are expired, like they don't exist in game anymore, so that's the only way to get them. Like at the very least, they're doing it in a way that you can't complain about. You know what I'm saying? Like you have access to it, or you had access to it, or you can buy it a la carte, or you can get it in the loot box. And everything that comes in the loot boxes in League of Legends, you can also buy. So, like, I don't think that that's a bad way of doing it. Like, I don't like loot boxes either. I find them to be annoying. But I think if you're going to do it, I think that's the best way to do it. And I think even the ones what we've covered so far, even the ones that we're not fond of, are still a better business practice than what we're seeing AAA companies do with their microtransactions.
Yeah, like
Because I
Apex.
feel like you're taking a game that you paid $60 for or $70 for, and or in some cases with the AA space games like 30 or 40, and you're putting microtransactions on it that are much more similar to what you get in a Candy Crush game or a fucking cell phone game where the microtransactions are always predatory and they are always meant to give it, like, they're never done well.
Yeah,
Like,
and
ever.
even like where to the point where a while back when it was really big, and I haven't seen it really crop up since then, but we were seeing it in single player titles like Assassin's Creed, the Shadow of Mordor game.
Yeah,
Like again entirely predatory in that sense that, and I don't know how many people delved in and bought those things, but I was definitely not gonna, like, when I played Assassin's Creed, I saw them and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Go sit
problem with
down.
a one-player game and putting that kind of shit in it, like stuff that will actually give you an advantage in the game, is you're taking an item that gives you an advantage in the game, you're taking an in-game item, and you are essentially gating it behind a loot box or behind a purchase in a store.
Yeah.
And that I find annoying, because if it gives you an advantage in the game, it should be in the game. It should be something you purchased.
And you know what's
I get it
also,
when you make real DLC, not shit that's hidden on the disc like what they did with Destiny and so many other games, but when you make actual DLC that isn't ready at the end of game, like you've released a game, it's a 100% experience, start to finish, it's the full story. It's not the Castlevania game that was on PlayStation 3 where they took the final chapter of the fucking game and made it DLC. So if you play through the game and you don't buy the DLC, you don't have the ending. You play up to a cliffhanger and it stops. That's it. So if you don't have money, if your parents are poor, if you grew up like the way a lot of us grew up and there's just not that kind of money floating around to go and spend $20, $30 here and there all the time, like, you don't get to see the end of the game that you paid 60 fucking dollars to play.
yeah.
And I think that's foul. But I love the a la carte system. I don't think I can say that enough. If I wish more people, if you were gonna do it, like, fucking dude, would you imagine how good fucking Overwatch would have been if all of the skins were a la carte? You just had like $3 for the common, maybe $5 for the uncommon, $8 for the fucking rare, that kind of thing.
I don't know.
Like,
It's
and
like,
then you could win those gold weapons.
it wouldn't have been that price, I can assure that, because like,
Well, I'm just
I get
whatever,
what you're
like a
saying.
dollar, $5, whatever. Like if they had done it a la carte, I would have had my fucking lifeguard skin. I spent was it $40? What was it that we
Still
just to
so
get that
hurt.
fucking lifeguard skin?
So hurt. Oh, it
I'm
haunts
still
his
angry
dreams.
over that. I am still angry. Like I got all the skins from a year before.
Yeah. Another thing with free to play compared to, say, a $60 purchase is that well, one thing I think we have to hint on because it's been so big in just the gaming industry as a whole over the last few years and stuff is the battle royale style games. Now we've had both free to play, the audible sigh, real quick. But I one thing, Shawn, I want to kind of pick your mind is what do you feel about the idea of a battle pass, right? So say almost like, and they're nothing new. It's pretty much just a season's pass, like for Call of Duty or something in the past, except instead of just getting all of the content, you have to work to get all the stuff. You have to actually play the game, do the challenges or all the other bullshit in order to acquire what you've paid for, kind of thing. Which always,
Well,
I'd never really enjoyed them for that reason because what the company that you're giving the money for, what they're banking on is the fact that you do not play the game enough to acquire all 100 levels of their battle pass to get all the items. Now, some people do.
most people don't.
Yeah, some people do.
Most people can't.
Yeah, most people do not though. Like for Apex, which just recently released a battle pass, which is hella subpar. I've never spent $9 on that thing. That their hope is the fact that you do not have enough money to finish it, so that when they put those weapons on the store eventually for you to buy, you're like, oh hey, I never got that. I'll spend the $10 on top of the 10 I spent originally for a battle pass I never finished. Their idea is like almost like for you to not play the game enough to get the worth out of that pass. That's like the idea. So when more come down the line, or things from the pass are released onto the store, you're like, oh hey, I didn't get that because I didn't spend 600 hours playing the game. Now I could spend another $20 on that skin. Thanks, Epic. I appreciate that. Kind of thing. And that's why they always rubbed me the wrong way. At least the idea of the battle pass, because you're spending money for something that is not guaranteed to you. You have to work to get it, which is interesting. It's like you go to, I don't know, it's like you go to buy food at a restaurant and they give you the ingredients and you have to cook it yourself almost or something like that in order to consume
so
what you
bad
paid
at
for.
analogy.
I suck at that. I suck at them so bad. I suck at them.
I don't know. I don't like battle royale. The only enjoyment I've ever gotten out of them was just that I was playing games with friends.
Yeah.
But and so I have limited experience with battle pass. I understand what it is in concept, but it's like a lot of the stuff in the battle passes you can't get unless you buy it. So the only thing that I would say about battle passes is that I mean, I don't, again, they seem to range in price, but Hector was always buying his battle pass. No matter, like, and granted, like, kids need to adjust the fact that there's going to be things they can't have, but you're going to have people that are able to invest all this money in battle passes and constantly buy the seasons, and it does create an addictive cycle, which I don't like. I've never been a fan of seasons. For initially, a seasons pass was supposed to be we have a schedule of DLC. We know we are going to release it. The DLC is going to have a cost. You can just pay for it in advance.
Yeah.
And seasons pass evolved into something very different and very predatory and very ugly. And the battle pass, it seemed like there was a tier structure, and if you bought it and you played through the game, so if you knew you were going to be playing the game a lot, you could buy the battle pass and get all these freebies and unlock all these skins and shit like that. And I think that I really just think that if you're really trying to get people to play the game, I don't know. I don't. My gut instinct is that there's something wrong with it, and I would never fucking spend money on a battle pass, even if I liked the game. But I couldn't. I have to be honest with you. I couldn't, off the top of my head, find something wrong with it. It just seems like I don't know. It seems like they're playing some sort of mind game. Anytime you've got, that's why I refuse. I refuse, and I know you don't have a problem with this, but I do. I will not play cell phone games that I don't pay for. If it's the kind of game where it's constantly prompting you or it gates stuff or like it's nothing but a grind, like I don't play those games. I know you play the bean counter games, but I don't do that. I just
Bean
can't
counter.
fucking do that. I'll just later.
That a meme?
The collectible games.
I'm all about the
bean
waifu
counters are
games.
different.
Waifu
Yeah.
games are my shit.
Like all of these games, they have psychologists that help them design the rollout and the way the game works that will trigger specific brain responses that clearly draw out certain behaviors and predate on certain behaviors.
Oh yeah,
And to
definitely.
me, that should be illegal. Now, bear in mind, I don't want the government stepping in on shit. All right. But I believe so when you cross a certain line, it's different between I know this gameplay is going to be catchy and it's got an addictive reward loop and people are going to enjoy it and they're going to come back and they're going to want to play it more. And I'm going to make this game so it triggers certain brain responses where they feel like if they don't get to play, it's going to make them feel depressed or it's going to make like there's a fine line there. I it's just one that people didn't used to think about. Like it used to be, I'm going to make a good game, but then when it was like, okay, well, we're not going to charge for this, we're going to earn money by having them buy continues. Now you have them being like these fucking emotional vampires that are tricking your brain into thinking that you have to do something. I would like to see all those games disappear. Unfortunately, that would take out a chunk of the waifu collecting games as well. That I
See, the
detest,
thing that
and they are bringing that into the AAA space. And the weird part is on consoles and computers, the independent guys that are doing the free to play games really aren't doing that so much.
no.
You're seeing the AAA developers that have already got their money trying to utilize that, and that scares me.
Yeah, because it used to be, let's just make a complete product that's fun and but now there's almost levels to what's going on where now we have to make a game that's fun, but we want to see how much money we can get out of it. So let's get a few people together to see what way we can monetize it further through predatory means, where loot boxes came from, thanks EA and the FIFA market. Every person that's ever bought a FIFA card, fuck you. Because you're the reason this shit's going on. Because if EA introduced the whole FIFA power team fantasy team bullshit with the cards, and that failed entirely, and it didn't make them billions of dollars, then I do not think we would see anywhere near as much of an influx of loot boxes as we do now if people stood their foot back then and we didn't see whales spending $200 on fucking FIFA cards. Now, again, I was just talking about waifu collecting games.
Become obsolete as of the next fucking
Yeah. One thing I can say is I have never spent money on a waifu game. I will say that here and now. I play the waifu collecting games. I've never spent money on a waifu collecting game. And some of them are pretty good about getting rolls in the gacha system to get more waifus without actually having to drop money. Like there's one I used to play called Azure Lane, which is really fun. It's like you know how they personify battleships, John?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's actually made by the same exact people that did that original, the original one. This is like the successor. And I can play this game if I put a few hours in every week. I can roll for the gacha like a shitload of times. I haven't spent a single dollar on that game because all I've done was just play it, and naturally as I played it, they introduced methods of acquiring characters without having to spend money. So I've never had to spend money on the game. Now, the whole process of opening a gacha or rolling a gacha is the same thing as a loot box. I will not say that isn't the case. It is. It's the idea that you are rolling for a rare character that is stronger than commons or uncommons, and they are all designed to be like the build up to this big fanfare if you do get a gold. So it's hitting all those chemicals in your brain that's making you think like this is fun, and it creates an addictive pull. 100%. That is how they are. They are predatory in that practice. It is. That's the idea. So I will not deny that, but I have not fallen into the deep end and spent money. And like one of them, the Fate Grand Order game, which is a waifu collecting game based on the Fate series, it has for a long time been like in the top 5 grossing on the Android App Store. That game makes a fuckload of money. It makes so much money. Even to the point where I think we talked about this a while ago, but it was like mentioned more on Twitter than Fortnite was. for the entirety of last year or something like that. Like that game is insanely popular. Weebs Rise Up. And
Also, Fate has a massively huge worldwide fan base because it's been so well done and it has
yeah.
universal themes.
All right.
So you've got a built-in market.
Okay. So we addressed
Why,
Go
why
ahead.
don't they make a game I can buy? Why is that so hard?
Uh,
I realize
they
you're
did
making
technically.
millions more on microtransactions, but why can't I buy a game where I earn them at a normal rate, not a glacial rate, and I can play the game and I can get the enjoyment out of it? Why is it that you have to produce a fucking microtransaction bullshit every time?
Because it makes them more
Why do
money.
you do that? Like, I would buy your game. I would buy a Fate game every time it came out. I'm going to buy that one that you had
On the Switch.
for
It was the hero style one, right?
it was like the hero style one. Like I'm going to buy that. It's also on
PlayStation.
yeah, it's on PlayStation. I'm going to buy that one
Well, I
because I want
might
to
have
play
it
it.
on PlayStation, not on Switch. It came to Switch recently. I have it on PlayStation. I played it for like 10 hours and stopped. So it always happens with the hero games. I'll pick them up and I'll never finish them. I don't know why. I just
See, I will I will play the shit out of
they
them.
don't
That
hold
doesn't
my
mean I'll
interest for
finish
some
them.
reason. So
I buy them for the multiplayer though. I don't buy them for the just to play them. I buy them to play with like my friends or my daughter. My daughter and I are huge Heroes fans because it's something she can play.
yeah,
It like the challenge level, like it amps up slowly, but I'm so good at those fucking games that I can carry her. So like it's just something we've always enjoyed doing.
I got you. So we've addressed monetization, and that's probably the biggest thing when it comes to free to play to full AAA titles because that's the biggest difference. You aren't paying to get to get the content right off the gate. It's something that they have to further monetize in the future, where the initial base is something you can get for free. Um, is there? I'm thinking because, like I had mentioned the MMO space just barely because a lot of games when they do come out, a lot of MMOs have come out have not done well for various reasons, and then they end up going free to play and they have to find a way to rework the system. I personally think that a free to play MMO is not necessarily doomed to fail because a lot of them do very well, but I personally do not enjoy the idea of having content restricted from me or them finding ways to have to force me to pay. Not necessarily force, and some they do, some they don't, but incentivize me to pay for further content in a game as large as an MMO. I would much rather have something like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft where I give them the money every month, which I'm completely fine with doing. Not everyone is. And then having a complete product that has complete additional content released over time in a decent time frame, like Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft. And I much rather prefer that because it's just I don't know. It's just like the idea of sitting down to play an MMO and then especially ones that are pretty bad about the idea of like every time you open up the menu, oh hey, we got a $99 box here. You wanna give me your credit card info and I'll open this box for you.
I hate that shit. That's my only complaint about fucking Neverwinter.
Yeah, they did that a lot.
There's an ever-present reminder somewhere on screen, like, "Hey, you could do this." But that's the worst part. Like, they don't gate content from you. They don't make it so you can't play the game if you don't buy stuff. The worst thing about Neverwinter is it gates your inventory. Like if you want to be able to really play that game the way you would play an MMO, you've got to buy inventory space.
Yeah.
Like that's really the big downside. And the game's good enough. And by the way, if you're out there and you're looking for free to play MMO and you're a console dude, Neverwinter's a good one.
Terra's pretty good
Like
too.
the only pardon? Yeah, Terra's fun. The problem with Terra is I was so into Final Fantasy at the time that I skipped all the story bits. I pulled a Kyle
Hell yeah,
and
boy.
I have no fucking idea what
Me
that
neither.
game's about,
Me neither.
but it is fun to play.
I had a Lolly Ninja.
Yeah, and the character classes are all very different. Yeah, it was funny because when he told me about that, I enjoyed Terra, and the story initially seemed interesting. I did pay attention. It just kind of stopped. It was just but the graphics are nice. It's a well-designed world. There's a lot of varied environments. The only thing that is the maps are kind of difficult to use, and there isn't a really easy to use compass, so it's not too difficult to get lost and trying to find your way back to whatever hub area can be a pain. But those two games I can vouch for, and Terra, I didn't notice a lot of difficulty with the inventory space, but like there's certain things that in order to upgrade your equipment, like it becomes where the microtransactions become beneficial. Um, but I don't think that either of those is particularly predatory. Like I never felt like I had to do that. With D&D though, you pick up shit all the time. And 90% of it can be useful in one way, shape, or form or another. And your inventory is nerfed really hard to start. They will give you bags every so often, and I think there's a PlayStation bonus for both games. It gives you with Terra, it's some cosmetic or costume pieces, and with Neverwinter, it's a bag and I think some money or something like that,
Hmm.
and a mount. You get a mount. I think it's a cat mount or something. But outside of that, like I would suggest those games are both pretty solid. Neverwinter does a little bit of an old school thing. It's a top down, three-quarters top down with smaller characters, so there's not as much detail in the characters. That is my only large complaint about it. The set pieces are great. The dungeons are all very different, and they're all very detailed. Like I had oodles of fun going through this like mage tower one where there's like all these undead and demons and things. It was
Was
all
that
fucked up.
was that game? That game was action based, right? It wasn't a tab target. I guess you couldn't.
It was a little bit of both, depending on what you were playing. Like, I think that some of the classes needed a little bit of work. Like the mage class is not fun to play for a while. Like there's this floating crystal thing. I don't remember what it was called. Kyle played it, didn't like it, and
I
switched to
didn't like.
something else.
I didn't
And
like the
then I
combat in that game at
eventually,
all. It felt
yeah,
clunky to me.
I had a lot of fun with the combat playing all the characters except for that mage one. No, as I understand it, they fixed the mage, but they fixed it near the midway part. Like you have to level up for a while for that class to open up,
Yeah, a
and
lot of
then
games do
it
that.
becomes a lot of fun.
Final Fantasy does the
But
same
it
shit
sucked at first. Like it's just I did not, and the problem was is I bought one of my best in like a la carte items, a
for that
minion.
character. Yeah,
Yeah, for that character, I accidentally put on that character instead of one of the ones I use more, and it's a really nice item, and so I have to play a shitty fucking character
I hate that
to
shit
use it.
too.
But
When they do like
oh god,
character only upgrades and you can't. It's not
yeah,
account wide.
all of the mounts are not character bound, but everything else is.
So dumb.
There no, that's not true because there are certain boxes you buy in Neverwinter where it's a box of armor or something, and you can open that an unlimited number of times. Like you go to this specific in-game vendor and you can get it as many times as you want on any character, but there are certain items that you get where you can only open them once and then they just disappear from the menu, and this was one of those, and it's an extremely helpful minion. I think it's a fairy that heals you or something like that, and I fucking don't need her on that character. Number one, like I fucked it all up, so that was my fault. But
Yeah.
I do enjoy the game, and if you're gonna play a free to play game, both of those do it fairly well. The D&D one has good storytelling, good world building. The graphics are pretty decent. The combat for me is fun, but it becomes a lot more fun when you're playing through with people. Um, and if you love D&D, it's good because it sticks to the canon extremely well. If you're more of a newer style, where you get to be behind your character and get to see all the little details of the character, it's all 3D and shit. A lot more than what you get with Neverwinter. Like Neverwinter pays attention to tiny details more. Terra is big and colorful, but it's not super detailed. It's a little bit like a better World of Warcraft kind of graphic style without the super goofiness. Like it's good for that, and it's fun. And that one is a little bit more action oriented too. But I would agree with Kyle. Those are really excellent. Also, the Elder Scrolls is free to play on consoles. and they do like an a la carte system as well. That
Free
one's
to
good,
play,
but
is
with
it?
that one you have to buy a disc. I don't think you can download it. I don't know if it's downloadable for consoles.
Yeah,
I think
it's
you have to
it's
go out and pick up.
it's buy to play. Yeah, you buy it once and you have
Yeah,
access to the game, and future content is DLC, so you pay for the DLC.
yeah. It's kind of a hybrid in between. That one's really, really good, but the dungeons suck.
I
They're
really
short, they're repetitive. The only thing that's fun about them is playing them with your friends, because I did not find the dungeons to be the majority of the dungeons to be creatively made.
I think
They just feel very
the best part I think about that game is
eh.
the PvP content. Like I really like it was good, but like having I would not go back to it again having played like WoW or Final Fantasy. There's just so much better in those games than ESO. Like it blows my mind. And like
Yeah, I think the magic of ESO is the world. They do a really good job creating a living, breathing, thriving world. There's not, there's less, they're larger environments than what you have in Final Fantasy. You get to walk through forests with trees and stuff like that. It's not like, and you get that more of that later on in Final Fantasy. It opens up more, but the original vanilla content that you start in, they're these confined areas. They're very scripted areas, in the terms of you walk in specific places. It's not like you walk through an actual forest. There's trees there, but you don't feel like you're in a forest. You feel like you're walking through a place where lanes have been made, and there are spaces you can move, and then spaces are just decorated. It doesn't feel the same, and it's either a field or it's not a field. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just I was very disappointed. Visually, they're very attractive, but in terms of it feeling like Elder Scrolls felt, that was one thing where I felt Elder Scrolls really championed, was they created believable environments, fantasy ones, but believable ones, and they were large. So, and there was oodles and oodles of tiny little pockets of content like everywhere, and that's just not something I've seen anywhere else. And I think that's just because of all the experience they had making their single player games, putting all these little micro dungeons and tiny little bits and pieces of things in different places. Like they were really good about that. But Elder Scrolls just feels very wooden and uninvolving compared to Final Fantasy. It just tells a really great story, consistently great story. The environment's beautiful. There is so much to do. You get so much for what you pay for. Like I feel
Final
like,
Fantasy is what we're talking about right now. That wasn't
yeah, Final
stipulated.
Fantasy. Like I feel like with Final Fantasy, I'm getting more than what I'm paying for
Yeah,
at
no,
all
me too.
times.
I could only play like a week for a month and then still feel like I'm getting the money I've paid for. I've put so many hours into that game. Okay. I don't know how the fuck we got to MMO conversations, but
Oh yeah, but
let's wrap up.
so
So
we've covered what we like about microtransactions and what we don't like about microtransactions in the free to play space. We haven't gone super in depth, but we touched on it. We've touched on some of what we don't like about the AAA space, but what can the AAA space learn from microtransactions done right? How can that improve?
well, that's interesting to bring about because I don't think microtransactions too often are done correctly, to be honest. I mean, like
They are.
unless they're fully cosmetic, and then at that point the only incentive is looking different. But in a lot of games where the microtransactions are weaved into progression, I don't think that they are done too well. I think Warframe again does a pretty good job because there is a reasonable grind to still acquire, and I also like that Warframe has an in-game market. So if you wanted to, you can make money selling things that you can then use to spend on other things. You don't have to spend money on the game. If you take the time to learn the market, you can acquire the platinum, or I think it's called platinum, through selling building primes and selling them and doing stuff like that. And you could make money and make in-game currency to spend on stuff. You don't have to drop the money, actually, if you get good at working the market. So I really think that helps build, because the biggest thing is having it where if it is buyable with a decent amount of money, there needs to be a workaround to acquire that item. It's like the problem with the AAA microtransactions we have seen is that they are just gating. A lot of times it's just gating content. It's like, oh, this is here, you can buy it and you'll have it, but there's no other way of acquiring it in game. You can't grind for it. And the thing is with a lot of times in the examples that we've brought up is that a lot of times it's just, again, they just hold it away. And then boom, you can buy it. Like Warframe, if you wanted to, you can sit there and you can dedicate yourself to the game. You never have to spend a penny on it. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. That's the thing. The idea that you don't have to spend money, you are being incentivized to, love that word, you're being incentivized to buy the game developers. And since a lot of people don't end up having the time, they make up for it through those incentives. But because someone took the time to drop $20 into the game, that doesn't necessarily mean the person that does have the time cannot acquire those resources. That's my biggest thing. And like, I think like League, you can do it through League. If you spend the time, you can acquire the boxes, acquire the orange essence, and you can straight out buy skins without money if you want to dedicate the time to do so. It'd be interesting if like these battle royale games had a method of acquiring in-game currency outside of the battle pass, because we talked about the battle pass and kind of talk shit about it for a bit, but one thing that I think is a pretty interesting redeeming factor of the battle pass is the idea that in the tiers of the pass, you can acquire the money you use to buy the pass. So if you do take the time to fully level up the battle pass after spending 1,000 hours in Fortnite, you can technically get the second one for free if you spend the time leveling it out. Which was one thing. That's the one thing I think is very redeeming about the battle pass. You can buy it once, and if you take the time, you might not ever have to buy it again. But God forbid you don't dedicate the 1,000 hours this month to Fortnite or Apex to get to, and then you're behind, and then you don't ever finish the pass. Other things happen, which is exactly what the companies want. So you buy their next one and keep funding the game that way. But in the realms of AAA, I think that's the biggest thing. You should not be gating content unless it is post-game content that is providing new experiences for the story, like a DLC. That's the only time you should gate content. But if it's a weapon or something that exists within the game, that should be grindable in one way or another. Someone should have to, you either give them your resources and money to acquire it without having to give up your time, or you give up your time without having to give up your money. That's the biggest thing I think is to be taken from games like Warframe and stuff like that, is that there should be a roundabout way to acquire something. They should not restrict people from doing things like that. Because again, in a way, you are, and it's not as big with this method, but you are alienating people that do not have the money if you do not give them a way of grinding for it. If a kid has a bunch of time to play a game, he should be able to acquire everything that exists within the game. If someone does not have a lot of time, they should be able to be a whale, drop $100 on a game and get what they want, and still be able to have the same experience as someone that has 100 hours a week to dedicate to something. That's my biggest thing, and that's what I think AAA needs to take into play. To be honest, unless it's a cosmetic thing, I would really like to go back to DLC. I hope Borderlands 3, when it comes out, I hope they release the game, and all they do is drop DLC in the future. I would be so down if it's a content drop, just buy it that way. I like that method. I like supporting games through that method, and I think that way it works out. I enjoy that. I don't like the idea of like the Division 2 right now. It's fully all the microtransactions are cosmetic loot boxes and shit like that. But that's how they're funding further content. And then you can buy a season pass kind of thing if you want, which will give you early access to the new stuff. Which that's here and there. I'm not the biggest fan of that either, but I'd rather them do like Division 1, release the game. When a DLC comes out, you buy that expansion and you have the access to that DLC. That, because I feel like that further, I don't know, it just feels like everything with microtransactions is kind of wishy-washy and as to how a game receives funding. And I don't know entirely how it is. I'm not a dev, but I don't know how that affects, like, if microtransactions are bad this month for whatever reason, because they're not giving people enough incentive to actually buy them, then how does that affect future content as to someone just making really good DLC, and then you build trust in your consumers that way so that you will guarantee future DLC buys that way, instead of just like, oh, hey, the microtransactions are kind of shitty this month, we don't have as much funding to make a decent expansion for the next one because they're all free, kind of thing. So as good as that is for the consumer, the fact that you're getting all this content for free, if it's not being properly funded because people aren't buying the microtransactions, then that can further affect the expansions that come to the game, which I wasn't always a fan of. I was never against the fact that they work to build expansion to the game. You pay for it, you own it, and that's that. And then they do it again in a few months, kind of thing. So that's my opinion of that. And I think AAA kind of needs to take a step back and look at it that way as well. At least for monetization of the video games we have now, I don't think it's going anywhere, because games have the ability to make millions upon millions of dollars in just cosmetic microtransactions. So everyone's going to try it because everyone wants to try and hit it big with that method. So I doubt to see that going anywhere anytime soon, but I'd love to see a return to form with just DLC, like how Borderlands 2 did it. You had a game come out, it was a complete experience. They worked on future content. It was all good. Everyone bought it because it was good, and it just added to the game. I'd love to see that again. But that's my 2 cents in that fact. What about you, Shawn?
I agree with it. I think that I like all right, we've got a new class. It took us a little while to come up with it, but we've created something that works in game. It's a psycho. Here, you can buy the psycho for this much money. You can buy this new character for this much money. You want these skins, you can look like the characters from another game. Here it is for this much money. Like, I don't mind you fucking selling shit a la carte. I love the fact that you sell DLC, because that means I'm supporting the game and I'm going to get more DLC. It needs to be priced fairly. So if you're only getting 2 hours of content, I should not be paying more than $5 for that. That's a lot for 2 hours of fucking my
Looking
time.
at you, Destiny.
Like, maybe $10 if it's fucking Devil May Cry and it's really over the level design and shit. Like, you do really good. Like, what they did with Destiny was bullshit, and then they gated stuff without thinking it through. You could always just allow them to select a shittier version of the fucking thing. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't like it's the predatory thing, man. I never feel like Warframe is being predatory. I feel like the MMOs, they have to put a bit more into what they're doing, and there's a lot more for them to consider. So okay, you make it a lot harder on me to play the game by nerfing my inventory or not allowing me to play the cooler classes. That's fine. I can't have flying mounts. Okay. I can still enjoy the game. I can still enjoy like the same stuff that everybody else enjoys. I'm just missing a few of the perks. I don't have the leather interior. I don't have 16 AC vents. I've only got 4. I don't have a V8. I got a V6, but I can still drive the car. I can still get to work. I can still experience what everybody else is experiencing, just not quite as plush.
Fuck you and your superior analogies, man. Get out of here.
Like, that's what it needs to be. With them, like the loot boxes like, if you're gonna have loot boxes, then you need to fucking give me the odds, and you need to allow me to buy it a la carte. Period. All right. If you're gonna fucking gate parts of the game behind DLC, that's fine. But I need to know about it ahead of time, like, so that I can't buy your piece of shit game. Like, if you're going to be releasing this, if it's already done and you're holding it, as long as it's not part of a cohesive, complete experience of the game, I don't even care. If I get my $60 out of it, and then you're like, all right, well, we finished it ahead of time, but we need money, so we're going to sell this as DLC. What the fuck ever. It's a coward's move, but you're not going to hear me bitch if you sell me a good game. But the problem is the people that are doing this aren't. And they're giving you minor experiences like Destiny 2, like gating a whole bunch of shit that they already designed, already had finished, and already had polished on the fucking disc. Then releasing it is bullshit. You had 2 years to make good content. You didn't need to sit on your ass and have what was already broken. Like, you should have just released something that wasn't broken.
Yeah.
Microtransactions are not an excuse to release a broken product. It is not an excuse to be predatory. So like that ultimately, like look at always what we always say. Look at Warframe. Look at what they did. Do that. The only difference is because we paid $60 for the game. Take out the shit that gives an advantage and let us earn that in game at a reasonable rate. Otherwise, all of the skins, all of that other stuff, like if you're gonna fucking do microtransactions, put it in a la carte. But you know what else is big? We didn't even touch on this. All of those independent games, all the free to play games, their communication with their communities is fluid and open and consistent.
Yeah.
They live off of staying in contact with these people. But look at how Bungie's talk to us, or how fucking Blizzard, or BioWare with Anthem. Look at these motherfuckers like, and how they talk or don't with their communities, how they listen to their communities, like the non-existent fucking levels of interaction that should be there. Like that's another huge thing. They could take a lesson from that. Not part of the topic, but just putting that out there.
Yeah. Okay. I think that we did a pretty good job. My throat is
all your
killing.
big parts.
We appreciate everyone for tuning in. Let us know what you guys think about this topic. What do you think the AAA market can learn from free-to-play titles and their monetization values, or vice versa? We'd love to hear from you guys. I think it's definitely an interesting thing to see going forward. I don't see this changing because it's working. People are buying these things, and that's the whole reason we have them in the first place. If they didn't work in the first place, a la FIFA and all that other stuff, they wouldn't exist because it wouldn't be productive for the company. So that's the biggest thing. It really would need to be a huge change in the way people view these in the first place. I know that over time, as people have gotten fucked over by a lot of these companies, the mood has soured over microtransactions as a whole, and people have become more and more attuned to them. But there are still lots of people just fucking wailing out these microtransactions. And I've said that term a few times. I don't know if everyone understands it, but a whale is basically someone who just drops like a fuckload of money in microtransactions. So like they exist everywhere. There's a lot of people that do it. But like if you look at a streamer, right, and they buy the Fortnite Battle Pass, and then they go ahead and spend money buying every single tier in the first day, so they have all 100 levels right off the bat, spend an additional $80 to do all that, that's a whale. There are actual people that do that as well, that aren't like streamers that do it for a living. There are people like there's like this dude, he's really popular in the Fate community that plays the mobile game. He spent like $23,000 on the mobile game alone. That's a whale. So that's what I mean when I say that. But
how
you just get all the characters. God forbid.
How did he get the money?
What? To spend $23,000 just over time.
Yes.
Just by working or whatever. Either that, or his parents are rich, or he's rich, or he's made a thing of himself and he likes collecting waifus, so he has a better disposable income.
Maybe.
Blah, 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 blah.
Is he really hot? Is he a prostitute?
No. Disposable income.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. He's like a Japanese guy. So he might have rich parents.
Christ.
I don't know. But, so that's that. Let us know what you guys think. We'd appreciate it. Feel free to leave feedback, either on iTunes, in our Discord. Hit us up. Let us know what you thought of the episode. We'd appreciate it. But we're going to go ahead and wrap things up this week. Episode 89 of the Thought Patrol podcast. I'm going to leave you all with a thought. American Airlines saved $40,000 in 1987 by taking out an olive from the first class salads.